This week's episode of All Wings Considered is brought to you by Plastics. Plastics. Now, here's Ben and Jason.
Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of All Wings Considered. Hopefully.
I think so.
We're at the point in the stream where it's gone off so flawlessly so far that something must be terribly wrong.
Are we broadcasting only in North Korea or something, perhaps? Have we flipped to sweating? Because that was disturbingly smooth.
Yeah, we got the thing that lights up when people can hear us.
Yeah.
I see my face there.
I see my face. I hear you next to me. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. This is a lot smoother than before. Now we're in shock because it's moved so well. Which is surprising to us because we were just worried a few moments ago. So what's happening, man?
Nothing much. Obviously much. The world is falling apart right now, and everyone's running around headless, and no more place than here in D.C., which was actually nice because it meant there was nobody went out to lunch. Everybody was too busy reading.
Right.
So.
Yes, it was a very quiet day. I may have gotten a few text messages from friends saying, "Is DC on fire yet?" And said, thankfully, I live just outside of it.
It's just very, very quiet.
Yes, very, very quiet, which is nice, which allows us to spend more time developing this wonderful program that comes to you each Thursday evening.
Although I will say, this is going to be a shorter episode, we hope, because tonight is the Discovery finale, which is...
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about? I saw the schedule.
I'm probably not as excited about... you're probably not as excited about this as I am, because I'm...
You have made me vested in it. I don't know the entire backstory of it, but you have filled me in enough where I am extremely curious to learn more. It's interesting... Because, like, watching with you, I'll be like, what does that mean? And you're like, oh, brrr, and have all that for. So it helps explain all the context that I don't always understand. So, yeah, I'm actually excited to see it as well.
But no, my week's been good. Just getting work done and...
Yeah, I hear you.
Winging it up. And I got some pictures of a monorail I'll show you in a minute when we get to the slideshow.
What's that name again?
Monorail!
That's right.
There's not another musical episode, except for parts that are.
Except for segments that are. This is not an entirely musical episode by any stretch of the imagination. We did that last week. So what should we start on?
Well, let's go over to the slideshow and...
We should really just record those sounds.
No, it's priceless this way.
Or we could just video us, like, actually, we have enough throttles. We should both be pushing a throttle to the stops next time. That would be a good idea. Well, so what's our first... How have you ordered these today, sir?
Randomly? No.
All right, good. Excellent.
No, I actually wanted to start with the sadder one.
Yes.
Sadder depending on... It's sad news overall.
It's
sad news. It's one of those... This is a weird lead up. No,
this is our as odd as it sounds, our in memory show. Kind of.
Owen Garrett, Richard Garrett's father, and a famous astronaut in his own right, passed away a couple days ago, and we wanted to just take a moment to get a picture. The father of Origin Systems, so you can't not take a moment and honor him. It's one of those people that we would have taken note of that regardless of his connection to Origin.
Certainly,
was one of the Group 4 astronauts. It's hard to imagine looking back, but the first three groups of astronauts were not scientists, and finally Congress had to kind of. You guys should be having scientists on these missions, and so we got the Group 4 with Harrison Schmitt, who actually landed on the moon, and Owen Garriott, who he flew on Skylab. I can't remember which Skylab mission is which because they changed the numbering. Because sometimes Skylab 1 is the launch of the station, and then the others are. Anyway,
Gosh.
So he was one of the
I understand.
One of the first Skylab astronauts, and then he flew on the shuttle. Remember in the early '80s when they had Space Lab that was like co-developed with ESA, and it was like they would fill up the back. It was like adding a back to your pickup truck, where they just like chunked this little lab in the back of the space shuttle. So he was on one of those missions.
Yeah, where you open the cargo bay and there's just like the module there.
But certainly a genuine American hero, a connection to Origin Systems, somebody who made the world better, and we wanted to pay tribute to him briefly.
I have to say, one thing I've noticed looking at that picture, I love his very awesome Polaroid selfie setup there on the side. See right there? how it's mounted on the shelf, and that's very clearly a Polaroid, right? You can see that it's got the top flipped up, but yet somebody else is taking that picture. That's cool. I was actually also looking to see if there was an appropriate joystick in that frame, but there does not appear to be.
I don't think he really flew Skylab.
No, but you never know. You got to have a, you
definitely couldn't fly it at the end.
Yeah, you made it. You got to have a stick maybe sometimes, just for, even if it doesn't do anything, to make them feel better up there, right?
I think I know why you're not in charge of the Manned Spaceflight program.
Yeah, I did apply, but USA jobs not referred. Can't win them all.
So, and it's one of those passings where he was 88, he had an incredible life, he went to space, so it's more of, honor him rather than be totally sad, but it's
a celebration of life as opposed to a sad and commemoration of life.
And speaking of which, you've got a little slideshow you wanted to share with us.
Yes, which is another gentleman who also lived a very, very full life.
Mr. Airplane.
Yes, which is appropriately, he was actually laid to rest today, which is the anniversary of this event. This is I guess we can call this a small deployment of McHale's Navy. We're not sending the whole fleet out just a little bit this time. But today is April 18th, 2019, so it's the 77th anniversary of the Doolittle raid over Tokyo. And so I just put a few pictures together. Here are the raiders on the USS Hornet, which is a ship we covered a few weeks ago.
And let's get our tangential wing commander connection in here.
Yes, so this connects to
Run. And Run is credited to Doolittle and his raiders.
Yes. So Dr. Forstchen, knew of this story. Everybody knows of this great classic kind of wartime story. And today is the anniversary. And so here we have the Raider, the 16 B-25s on the USS Hornet, which we talked about a few weeks ago when Paul Allen's group found the wreckage of it at the bottom of the South Pacific. And then I have a few pictures I threw in of the raid that I thought were slightly different.
Okay.
Like that's Jimmy Doolittle about to take off. So the whole idea is that they're timing this with the waves so that when the wave tosses the deck up, that's when the plane hits the end. It's given that additional throw. So if you go to the next one, we'll be able to see that's one of the famous pictures of it, where he's being thrown off the deck by the waves to give him additional lift because he has everything at the stops. And the gentleman we're actually going to talk about, he is the co-pilot on that exact aircraft. And there should be one more cool picture. Yes, this one taken from one of the escorts, which is one that typically doesn't get seen a lot. But it's great. There's nothing in the background, and you just clearly see Jimmy Doolittle taking off that first time. But the reason we're talking about this, and hopefully, if I've counted correctly, it's the next one, right? Yes, so that is Jimmy Doolittle in the center there, the short gentleman. The tall gentleman to his left, who's kind of slightly got his head tilted down, that is Dick Cole. Mr. Cole passed away on April 9th of this year, and he was actually laid to rest today in Arlington National Cemetery. So on the 77th anniversary of the event that made him famous, which if we go to the next one, it should be the...
He was the last of the...
Yes, he's the last surviving Doolittle raid, 103 years old.
And that's another one of those lives where...
Oh, in his life, I can tell you...
Don't kick 103.
Yeah, and I can tell you that gentleman's life, if he bought a beer between 1942 and last week, I'd be amazed. When I met him and some of the other surviving raiders in 2012, and it was very clear after only a short interaction with them that these guys had been in the spotlight for a long time and kind of understood how to work the crowd. They were quite good at it. And then I think the last one, right, of him, yes. So one of the cool things, if you've ever seen like The Simpsons, they steal this kind of idea in whatever Abe Simpson and Mr. Burns are in.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, with the...
I'm looking at you hoping you remember the name.
The flying hellfish.
Yeah, the flying hellfish, right? Mm-hmm. And the last guys drink the bottle. In this case, what they did is the Raiders, they got this beautiful silver set. So you can see behind Mr. Cole, a lot of them are turned upside down, representing those who have passed away. And at that point, there were only 4 of them still alive. So they figured, well, we should do this now. And they held their last reunion, I think, in 2014, where Cole opened it's a bottle of 1896 cognac, the birth year of Jimmy Doolittle. And the 3 people that were there, and then one gentleman who could not travel because of his age, they all had a drink of this 1896 cognac as a final toast to their fallen comrades. And now today for the very first time, all of those cups are now upside down.
Which is actually kind of interesting because we're going to be talking about exactly that sort of memorial when we get to Fleet Action later tonight.
Yes, which I thought, it's weird. This has been kind of a weird week for us, right? I mean, we were talking the other day how like a lot of weird things happened on like Monday and Tuesday, and it seems like this is one of those weeks where weird things happened, and then like there's a lot of strange coincidences.
Honestly, this week leading up to Easter is always really like that. I mean,
It's been so strange.
All the like 90s terrible events happen this because my birthday's at the end of the week, and so I just remember constantly. Okay, Columbine is now, and the bombing in Oklahoma City.
Yes,
it's all this week historically.
And it's so weird because like I used to joke with my students that April is for American History Month because we declare almost all of our wars this month, save the Second World War. If you go back and think about it. Like today is not a day you mess with the United States. I was talking to Ben earlier before the show when we were kind of gathering information about this, and it's like the anniversary of the San Francisco earthquake, the anniversary of the Battle of Cerro Gordo and the Mexican-American War. It is the Doolittle Raid, and if you flip, we should get our next event, Operation Vengeance. Which is actually something we don't see Fortune work into Wing Commander, really.
This is something I have always wanted to do in a space game, actually. I have pitched this specific campaign, because I've been involved in various attempts to relaunch Wing Commander, and I have included this like every single time. So,
interesting.
Because it's such a great story that also translates into an action game so easily.
Yeah,
and nobody's done it.
No, so I'll give like a very brief summation. So what happens is that the United States breaks the Japanese Imperial Code, and they discover that Yamamoto is going to be doing a tour of the Solomon area. And there's one thing very particular about Yamamoto. He's one of those guys, he is insanely punctual. So when it says wheels up at like 0930, that means the wheels are off the runway at 0930 in 0 seconds. Like he is that type of guy. And the United States intercepts his flight plan. And what they do is they come up with what's called Operation Vengeance to go kill him. They literally ask, hey, Nimitz asked some of his commanders, if we kill Yamamoto, what do we think the consequences or effects will be? And a lot of the American commanders say, this would be like killing you. This will have a horrific effect on their morale and on their strategy. So the United States says, let's do it. And they come up with this plan to fly out of Henderson Field with a bunch of P-38s. This is a map that shows, you can see that kind of outbound leg. They fly way out of the way. So it makes it look like it's just a random encounter. We just happen to run into them at this moment. Which is kind of a really good way to hide the fact that we've broken their code, which is something we don't get into this part of Fleet Action, but later we can do.
We're headed to Code Town.
Yeah, we're heading to Codes. And what ends up happening is that you can flip it now. Is that so? There's a bunch of 18 P-38 Lightnings.
How did they get this photo?
It was a drone.
Oh, okay.
They were allowed to fly drones over Bougainville in 1943. And the reason this is also mentioned today is this occurs 1 year to the day after the Doolittle Raid. So this is on April 18th, 1943. And what happens is there's 18 P-38s. So Yamamoto's in a G4M Betty bomber. There's another one of those as well carrying other staff. And then there's a bunch of Zero escorts. And there are 4 P-38s that are called the Kill Team. Their job is to make sure that those Betty bombers do not make it beyond the intercept. Well, that's exactly what happens. Now, there's a bit of debate over who actually shoots down Yamamoto, and I won't get into that. I will just simply quote the pilot, Lafner, who was the first man to claim the kill. There's a bit of debate today, where what he does is he kind of spins a famous quote from Yamamoto about having to dictate peace terms in the White House to defeat the United States. And he says, quote, "That son of a bitch won't be dictating any peace terms in the White House." To let him know that, nope, he is done. But yeah, this also happens today, and then I found some other pictures. I tried to find there's not a lot of good ones of the bomber itself. So to this day, you can actually visit it in Bougainville if you have the money to go out there and you want to risk traveling. Sometimes that area of the war around Papua New Guinea is less than ideal, unfortunately, with some of the civil strife there, but you can actually tour the crash site. And so the Japanese, after he got shot down, they went out there and they said, Yamamoto was sitting in his jump seat against a tree looking perfectly still like he had been sleeping, which is clearly a giant lie, because who knows how he was. They recovered his remains and actually brought them back to Japan. Which I think that's the last one for that, if I remember, because then we just have one final. Oh, no. Oh, sorry, there's 2. I forgot. my goodness, today's a rough one. I should have looked at the thing. Yeah, and that's Ernie Pyle. Unfortunately, Ernie Pyle is killed today in 1945. Ernie being the famous journalist of the Second World War, the soldier's reporter, where he is killed by a sniper on Ishima, which if you go to the next slide, this is what they did. The 77th Infantry Division built this sign for Ernie Pyle, commemorating the spot of where he died on the 18th of April 19. So right at the end of the war. Right? And he's somebody that all of the troops loved. He told their stories opposed to, Patton and Eisenhower and everybody else. And then the last one, I'm a good New Englander, I'm a good Yankee, I'm a good Union member. Gather round, children, and you all shall hear about the midnight ride of Paul Revere. And that's all I'm going to do of that poem. But it's the anniversary of Paul Revere's famous ride where he didn't yell, the British are coming, he yelled, the regulars are coming, the regulars are coming.
So now that all that war is over...
Yes, April 18th. It's a big day.
Bad day, yeah.
It's a good day for the United States. It's
none of these don't sound good. We have heroes who die, and the British invade, and
but then tomorrow, right? We stand our ground at Lexington and Concord. Which, if you're in Lexington, you can go there and see the first reenactment. I believe at 5:15 a.m. So enjoy that.
Well, much closer to Earth and.
Those were on Earth.
Those were on Earth, but these are more closer to Ben Earth.
Oh, that's right.
So,
the epic expansion.
Yeah, one project I work on, aside from all the crazy Wing Commander stuff I do, and I've kind of put this off as we've developed the show in the last couple months.
Yeah, you have been a little quiet on it.
Yeah, I have not been doing so much work on this, but I have a monorail set up in our basement.
I think called a monorail.
It's a Lego monorail. So when I was a kid, the one toy I wanted was too expensive for my parents, and it was the Lego monorail, the 6990 Futuron monorail, and I wanted that so bad. And I always said, the minute I am an adult with a little bit of extra spending money,
I'm going to buy my childhood dream.
I'm going to buy that monorail. So I did, and then I got another one, and now I'm building a whole space setup in our basement.
Well, you also got lucky because your basement has the biggest bar in history.
Not in a good way.
Like most bars, it's long. His bar is just saying, "Build a railroad on me."
It's like a bar that was designed for the giant men from Prometheus. The
engineers. Yeah. I was gonna say that, or it's like a bar designed for the Last Supper. It's hugely wide and long. It's insane. But anyway, it makes it perfect for this.
I just added this over the weekend. This is a cosmic laser launch site.
I like how you're keeping it together.
And this was a set I had when I was a kid. And I had my first panic attack because of this.
Oh, no!
I remember I was 8 or 9 years old, and I had just built this, and my mom said something to me like, people who want to save their Lego sets forever can glue them together. And I was like, I'm never going to want to change this. I'll glue it together. So I carefully glued it all together, and then it's panic hit me, and I was like, oh my God, what have I done? I've ruined them. So I ran to the kitchen sink, and I was ungluing Legos and running hot water on them, and no one else in the world knew this. It was just my head. And for years, my kid Legos would just have little bits of glue on them because I was a dumbass.
See, it's kind of funny. So you were space Legos. Mm-hmm. I did not own a single space Lego at all. It was all the...
I'm sorry your parents hated you.
Yeah, it was all... Oh, they also got me Playmobil, though, so I was really rich and stingy.
Did you have space Playmobil?
No, it was all the Western ones. So I had the fort, and then all the Legos I had were the Pirates and the Royal Navy, which is really kind of weird thinking. I guess it kind of makes sense for me.
There's a long shot of it.
Yep.
And my wife has instructed me to make sure that everyone knows this is not our actual kitchen.
No, it's not.
This is a kitchen in the basement that she has basically written off and said go do whatever you want down there. But my next plan is I'm going to replace that shelf with an open grandpa basement shelf so the train can actually go through and over to the counter.
We can always just drill a hole in that too if you want.
We could. Yeah, we could. I think we might ruin the structure,
it's
IKEA
debatable.
might not, yeah.
It's debatable, yeah, because it's particle. No, I mean, if you get it's just the right size, like a tunnel. Every monorail needs a tunnel.
A tunnel would be pretty cool.
We can get clear plastic. We'll have to. I have an idea. We'll talk about it afterwards. Okay. Otherwise, we're going to go off on a giant rant now. But I'm thinking for the tunnel, the hamster tubes, so you can see through it, and it's still a tunnel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Here, why don't you talk about this one, which you noticed?
Oh, what did I do? Oh, so
Mongo.
So when we were watching this amazing Quake mod, this was right after we had been talking about some of the characters.
This is from the Hazardous Duty trailer, the undeveloped FPS we saw last week.
So Mongo is kind of a funny name because immediately I thought, wait, is that like a spin? Because we have been talking about Mongol and how he kind of appears and disappears in End Run without much fanfare. So I was like, wait a minute, Mongo is just like Mongol. And I said, hey Ben, what is this? And then I was like, does this seem like anything? Like, where's this from? And he goes, oh. And then he showed me...
Oh, you were interested in a totally different reason than I was thinking.
What were you thinking?
You showed me this, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. It's not just playing Quake. They've actually named the map Enigma Sector, and they've changed the entry thing to be jumped in.
Yes. Yeah. So, wow, we're talking about a whole different thing.
Yeah, so that's why that interested me.
Just so you know, we talk about this all week.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I was thinking of the Mongol. I thought that was I guess yeah, because they do talk about jumps in from the Enigma sector, jumps out, and all that. Yeah, I did see that as well.
Yeah, because a lot of the things they'll just be like, you picked up 6 shells. Like, okay, that's straight from the Quake console.
Straight normal.
But then Mongo jumps in from the Enigma, and Mongo must just be an origin, someone on the Maverick team at the time, and I'm sure somebody can tell us out there who Mongo was.
Now there was one question though about what the Macintosh computer was next to the sink.
Oh, that is an old Mac Plus. You know how they say, don't go shopping on an empty stomach?
Sure.
Yeah, because you don't go grocery shopping on an empty stomach.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, I don't computer shopping empty stomach.
The corollary to that is don't go to the computer junkyard the day Steve Jobs died, because they were like, oh, we have this. I was like, that's kind of neat. Oh, I could pay $50 for that. So I've carried it around with me across the country and back. It posts.
Why don't we just turn that into something cool?
We should.
That can be like an extra stream Saturday. Watch Ben and Jason break a computer and not make it into what they planned.
I think the only Origin game we could play in that would be like the Ultima 4 port for the Mac.
I can ask my dad what discs he might have for that. Some old discs.
Yeah, he's got a system disc. That would be good because it doesn't have a hard drive.
We can probably ask my dad about that. I'm sure he'll be like, I have one of those. I have 50 of them. What do you want? 7-1, 6-8? Okay, whatever. What else do we have? I don't even know where we are. We've gone somehow. We're perfectly on track, but I feel off the rails.
That's this show for you.
It sounds right.
So this is one. This was such a weird confluence. Here's the movie Meet Joe Black. This is such a weird confluence of things, but the social media this week, before today, obviously, there was the strangest confluence of things that caused, again, Wing Commander to show up all over social media, which is that, first of all, somebody cut out a funny clip from Meet Joe Black where Brad Pitt, it says right on the screen there, Brad Pitt gets hit by a car.
Oh, no.
Hilarious. So that was all over Twitter. And there were, at the same time, the new Star Wars trailer dropped. Which, by the way, we should have talked about that. New Star Wars trailer, that's super cool.
That's for the other show.
That's our Star Wars show.
Are there wings in there? Oh my god, there are wings, aren't there?
There's A-Wings, B-Wings, all things to consider.
And we all consider wings.
So, the Star Wars trailer for the new movie dropped. Everybody suddenly became obsessed with Meet Joe Black. And then everybody's memories of the late 90s were fuzzy. So it was all... I found all these people on Twitter who were like arguing, no, I saw the Star Wars trailer before Meet Joe Black. And no, it was before Wing Commander. So I just wanted to go through and clarify what the actual story is.
So, I was going to say, what the hell's going on? I don't even remember Meet Joe Black.
Meet Joe Black was... And I may only remember this because I happened to be...
You have a better memory?
No, because I had actually lost my sight at the time. And that's a weird prelude, but it's a movie.
I saw a movie when I was blind.
No, it's a movie about Brad Pitt going blind, and a woman still loves him anyway.
Okay,
I assume, and it's like 3 hours long, and it's.
No wonder I've never heard or seen of it.
Yeah, it's not a good movie.
No, doesn't sound like it.
But its claim to fame, more or less, is that it was one of 3 films that had the episode 1 teaser attached.
Okay.
And this was November 1998. There's the teaser poster. And I did not put the Star Wars trailers actually in here because I'm sure we would get taken down by Lucasfilm immediately. But this was
no wings considered.
This was kind of the Anakin-focused teaser. It was 2 minutes, and it was like, every generation has a legend. And you saw the first ever footage for episode 1. That is separate from Wing Commander, which came out it came out 3, 4, 5 months later, which had with it the trailer for episode 1, which was the
Different than the teaser?
different from a teaser.
Okay, gotcha.
A teaser is not necessarily what's going to be in the movie. It just gets you interested in the movie. Something like I think my favorite teaser of all time is for the 2009 Star Trek, where it's just you see a welder building the new Enterprise.
Okay.
So it's get you into a mindset. It's further out. Then a trailer is the very traditional. We cut a bunch of scenes from the movie to kind of show you what it's about and get you interested.
Gotcha.
So Wing Commander had. And this terminology was very loose at the time. Some people called them Trailer A and Trailer B. It's if you go back to Lucasfilm's archives now, it's teaser, trailer, and then trailer. But
that makes sense.
There's no consistent. If you go back to stuff from that reporting from that era, it's not consistent. So Wing Commander had the big Phantom Menace trailer. This was the big drop of what is Phantom Menace about that had everybody excited. And
there's about the fight at the end. That's all we care about.
So, there was this big thing at the time when Wing Commander came out, which was all this drama about this Phantom Menace trailer.
And we've talked about this before, right? You had the great picture a few shows ago.
Yeah.
Saying, you can't get your refunds, suckers.
So what happened was, back in the day, when places would physically rent film. So if I was going to show Meet Joe Black, I would say, hey, what was it, Universal send me, here's my rental fee, you send me this, I exhibit it, people see it, they pay me, and that's how I make money.
Okay.
And it involves physically shipping these big heavy reels of film to theater. And there's 2 ways that a trailer can be included in a movie. One is that if it's attached to the film.
Okay, like physically part of
the first reel.
Okay.
So you probably notice you go to see a Disney movie in the theaters, there's a bunch of Disney trailers before it. But also sometimes there's a bunch of competing trailers right before that, like, DreamWorks and Fox Animation and so on. Yeah. So what it is Disney has the trailer for Frozen, they know that's a big deal. They want you to see Mary Poppins. They physically attach it. These are not movies that actually came out on film, but they physically attach it, so it will always play with every version.
Gotcha.
So, the second way the trailers were attached to films was you would get a little 2-minute film reel that the projectionist would be supposed to splice into the reel. So the first bunch of trailers are usually the ones that the theater decided, and then the ones after that are the ones the studio decided.
Gotcha.
So in the case of Meet Joe Black, the deal was that Fox distributed these trailers like this, unattached, and there were specific agreements. You had to show it before either Meet Joe Black, The Waterboy, or some other movie I've completely forgotten. I tweeted it, but I've forgotten now.
You got the good one.
So for Wing Commander, the plan was, and this is what everyone remembers, that Fox would ship the Wing Commander trailer, or the Phantom Menace trailer attached to the first reel of Wing Commander. Wing Commander did not get the traditional lengthy. The date for Wing Commander was announced, a month before it came out, so it did not have its own trailer. It had a very abbreviated TV ad campaign, a no-print campaign. So this was the idea. We're going to make up for that by having the Star Wars trailer. Yeah, I mean, you nerds want to see Star Wars, you got to see Wing Commander. That's a hell of a bargain in my mind.
That's 2 for 1, definitely.
So everyone remembers that, and they, every time anyone mentions a Star Wars trailer or anything, it's, I saw Wing Commander for that.
Yes.
So that was the plan. There is one additional part to this story that I think people don't know or they don't realize, is that 4 days before this was to happen, Lucasfilm figured out what Fox was doing with their film, and they were not happy. And they said to Fox, you can't do this. You can't attach our trailer to this competing movie.
Competing.
And so Fox had to put out a statement that said, no, the Phantom Menace trailer can be attached to any movie that comes out that day. And they let a note to studios saying, physically cut it off of your Wing Commander print and attach it wherever you feel is right.
Interesting.
And StarWars.com, which was actually a site back then in 1999, even put out a notice you can find that says, it will not be attached to any particular movie, including Wing Commander. Like they call that directly.
Talk about Clash of the Titans, huh?
So what we got running WCNews.com back then, our Fox guy was like, "Oh no, we had to say that, but nobody's going to bother doing this," and that's totally accurate. No one in the world bothered doing that.
It's a lot of work. Work is hard.
So you are correct in remembering that the Star Wars trailer was almost certainly attached to Wing Commander, but not technically was. It was not technically that.
I think from a certain point of view, I guess is the joke we're supposed to make right there.
So that's just some background history on the Phantom Menace trailer.
Setting the record straight.
Yes. And the other thing that everybody remembers, like, oh, Wing Commander only made money because of Star Wars, and that is not true at all. First of all, because Wing Commander did not make money.
Yes.
But if you look at the week-by-week drop-off, the Wing Commander came in 7th the first week, and it had a 50% drop-off, which was exactly the same as the number 6 release, which also did not have the Star Wars trailer. So there's no evidence that the needle moved at all because people saw the Phantom Menace trailer. The actual evidence is that nobody actually saw the Phantom Menace trailer in the theater. Everybody thinks back and they remember, oh, I saw this, but it was on Good Morning America that morning. It was streamed in real media at StarWars.com. It was everywhere before they even started opening theaters that day. So.
Yeah, I don't even remember I remember where I saw the Wing Commander movie at the Londonderry Apple Tree Cinema, but I have no recollection if I actually saw the trailer itself. I know who I went with, and that's it. Those are the days.
So here's some other fun nonsense. Nice segue.
Yes. I'm supposed to say that. You can't segue yourself.
Okay, segue me.
So what's up next?
The terrible segue. You suck.
I thank you. Well, you already stole the good one.
So, that's my quote. So, that's our trailer. One thing I kind of spun around in my head over the last week was the takeoff sequences in the Super Nintendo version of Wing Commander 1. Yeah. So we got a couple videos to watch.
Ooh.
The first one is, you all have seen the original PC takeoff. They run to the planes and takes off and then shoots through the Tiger's Claw. So this will probably look very familiar. This is the Super Nintendo port. Fewer colors, but very, very similar. I will say watch for at least one Easter egg, which we'll point out later.
Of course we will.
We'll be on the tube 6 through 9, which, nice. But that's always been a Wing Commander. When they're running by and you see the red things, it's always, they run by the sign that says tube 6 through 9. So
I see. So
we were doing that back then.
So you're telling me Gronkowski was a Origin developer.
So here, watch for... It's going to be blink and you miss it.
Yeah.
Not the tubes thing, the other in-joke. But you can see this looks just like the PC one, pretty much. This is whatever, the 32 or 16 colors instead of 256, but it's clearly the same sort of thing. And did you see it?
There was
right there.
There was something. Yes.
There was something, wasn't there?
On the wall. I couldn't really...
We'll see what that is in a little bit.
I was trying to... I couldn't... Oh, I should have watched it over here if I was smart. I was not.
So the one that people do not know so much about is that for secret missions, the second Super Nintendo release, there was no space in a Super Nintendo cartridge, and they were trying to shave off every little bit. So one thing that was a big bunch of bits you could shave off was all those takeoff things where you saw, the sprite of the ship, the backgrounds, the running, the animation. That's all stuff that's not used anywhere else by the game. So they came up with a simplified version with new art, and it's pretty neat.
Let's see.
What the hell's going on here?
My goodness.
So no running to your ship. Instead, you're in this weird elevator. This is the first half.
I like how the elevator doesn't follow you up.
It's done all with sprites. And then look at this.
Oh, hey!
That is Wing Commander Secret Mission's very single use of Mode 7 graphics, which is the other reason. That's the reason this came to mind in the first place.
Interesting.
Because, and we'll share the link below later, but Kotaku ran this story a couple days ago that was this. They've done this mod for Super Nintendo emulators that updates Mode 7. Mode 7 is, and I wish Mike were here because he would be able to explain this in exactly the way I'm not. Yep. But it's basically a graphics mode on the Super Nintendo where it can kind of scroll those landscapes. It takes a single image and it can tilt it in different directions, and it processes that all in hardware. And the way it does that is it takes a higher resolution image, or it takes an image and it florbs it in different directions using math. Science, yeah.
Gotcha.
But what people have figured out in general is now that everything is done digitally emulation, you can change the Mode 7 mode so it maintains the original resolution of the source. Oh. So it's like a source port of Mode 7 stuff. And there's this new emulator you can download. They've got it linked in Kotaku. And I went ahead and filmed that again with the new emulator and see if you notice a difference.
And you already do. I mean, it jumps out you right there, the cleanness of the lines and stuff.
Yeah, that's probably more just the emulator had better settings, because this is not Mode 7 right there.
Oh, really? I say it looks just.
There, look at that.
Yeah, then those look really sharp.
Yeah, it's high resolution.
That's real nice. Yeah, that's real nice. Yeah.
Or is it? We'll find out because I'm about to get investigative.
Uh-oh. Does something...
Well...
Do things change?
So here's our slideshow.
Are there galactic changes, perhaps?
So here's the original first frame of the video taken from a regular... And I matched this to a physical SNES, so we know this is what it's supposed to look like. Here's the fancy version.
Ooh, look at that.
The emulator updating how it scrolls the Mode 7 stuff. It actually changes how it looks, and it covers the galaxy. Yeah. So we now have a Hornet that... So that's a weird thing that is thing.
I take that deck. That's a great-looking Tiger's Claw deck.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
And saves so much memory because it's just one flat image instead of all those scenes. So while I was tooling around in that, one thing I absolutely resolved to do starting this week is finally do a comprehensive comparison of the two Super Nintendo version to the PC version. Because there's so many crazy changes and edits, so much stuff for content. They're not allowed to have drinks. Shot Glass can't serve beer. He has to make desserts for people. There's all sorts of crazy background stuff. We need to go through every single mission and figure out what has been changed.
I love ice cream.
Because Nintendo was big censor. But I grabbed a couple other shots just to share as I was starting out on this. This is the Super Nintendo, the initial Super Nintendo releases enter your call sign screen. And for whatever reason, they redesigned it for the next one. So here are what two consoles in the Tiger's Claw look like if you ever want to work on a Wing Commander UI from the 90s.
I mean, I guess that's slightly bit saving a bit.
Yeah, I like this one better.
I do too, because it looks like it's on the side, like next to a door or something.
Yeah.
And that just looks like it's on a tabletop.
The other thing... Okay, here.
Yeah, the HAL.
HAL, yes.
It looked like a weird... Because you see it on the right, and you can't... It goes by just quick enough.
It goes by too fast for you to see it.
And you can't tell, though, if it's like a wide... Like, I thought it was wider than that. Like, it was some type of console at first.
No, so, yeah, as you're taking off in the Super Nintendo version, blink and you miss it, there's HAL on the right.
What? Oh, that's great. Which is appropriate. Like, we're going to see Control and what they're up to later this evening.
And we hope. That was my slideshow for Super Nintendo SNES, but it actually dovetailed, fancy word, college boy.
Hey, I'm kind of thirsty. What if I wanted to drink on the Tiger's Claw and Shot Glass wasn't around?
Terrible.
That was a perfect contextual setup.
So one thing I've always been looking out for is trying to find a soda machine in Wing Commander. There's this guy on Twitter. He's a big retro gaming person, and he's an actual professor. And he keeps a database of soda machines in video games. And he has all this universe. He teaches like game classes, and he has like a paper about how it's this easy way to take you into a game world. It's this touchstone that. So many games have a soda machine.
It sounds like somebody should get off the taxpayer's dime and get themselves a job.
So I've always wanted to find an example of it in Wing Commander, and I never have. I've not found a soda machine in Wing Commander that I can give to him to add to his list. But I have proven now that there's a soda machine on the fourth wall in the Tiger's Claw Lounge. So first of all, I went to see the soda machine that made us so angry in Wing Commander Academy, and I just wanted to get one shot, but then I saw this shot. Oh, she has like a sign in back where this is like Sprite, Spunk, or Spronk or something.
I hope it's not that.
And anyway, just a tiny detail I noticed in the background, so I threw that in there. This is the soda machine in Wing Commander Academy that made fans so angry that first day, because Blair goes and uses his credit card, and then it materializes like it's from Star Trek.
Oh, we got
and
replicators?
everybody on the Origin message board was pissed.
Oh, no.
Who gives a shit? We can print soda now. In fact, we have those soda printers.
Yeah.
You go to the 10 million flavors and you make it yourself. So this seems like it's right around the corner now. But at the time, we were like, oh my god, you're being Star Trek, you jerks. This show's going to be terrible.
People should be more mad that you did not acknowledge my Dr. Torg reference.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's who should get a job. Get off the payroll.
Anyway, and there's the soda on the ground. So, as I was... So here,
of course.
Here's our favorite Tiger's Claw lounge room. No soda machine. And shot glass is there. So, why would you need a soda machine?
I'm surprised they didn't rename them.
No, this is the PC one. By the way, he is.
Well, I was just thinking in the.
Oh yeah, you're right. He's still shot glass, but they couldn't say the word devil, so Blue Devil Squadron gets changed to Blue Angel Squadron, which we're fine with Judeo-Christian iconography, but it can't be the bad one.
Instead, it's gonna impinge upon the Blue Angels trademark for the Navy's air demonstration team. Mm-hmm. That seems like an unwise decision. But okay.
So here we have this picture right here. No soda machine. But let me read you a short extract from Freedom Flight, the first Wing Commander novel.
Yes.
This is Hunter returning from a mission, and he wants to find Angel because he just found out she's been promoted, and he's going to give her the news. On impulse, he headed for the rec room. There's the rec room. Rec room. He knew the place would be empty since the bartender shot glass. There's shot glass standing bar.
We need a better way to point it.
We do need a better way to point it.
We need laser. I don't know how we need to figure this out.
Shot glass didn't go on shift for another couple hours, and all you could get at this hour was the awful sugar water drinks from the automatic dispenser.
Uh-oh.
But just on the off chance, Angel actually likes that horrible soda they have there. Hell if I know why. And his luck was up. He smiled as he walked through the door and spotted her. Angel was seated alone at one of the tables, a glass of pink soda in front of her. So there's a soda machine there.
Sure.
And Angel likes the soda. And in fact, this is why this all came up now and associated with this. This is a picture of the train sim from the Super Nintendo version. Mm-hmm. And you can see right at the top, they've given it a different name. It's actually called Train Sim instead of Squadron now.
New.
And there, sitting above the VDU, and it's there when you fly.
Yeah.
It's the bottle of soda. It looks very similar to the bottle of soda from Wing Commander Academy.
Yeah.
This is not in the Amiga. This is not in the PC. This is not in any of the other versions. But only in the Super Nintendo version.
They love soda.
Someone has left a soda on the train sim.
What a jerk.
A very tiny soda compared to the size of your hand.
Yeah, it blends, and its location really blends right in with Eldrazi. Like, you don't notice it unless you really focus for a second. Because the color scheme is basically the same for all of those images right there.
And then if you look in the Wing Commander movie,
Oh,
look back there, you can actually see.
Yeah, I see the
On the
soda.
other side, it says cafe. There's a cafe dispenser. So.
Oh, cafe.
Still no cultural touchstone soda machine in a Wing Commander game, which is apparently the rules for getting added to that list. But
interesting.
If you were to turn your head in that scene instead of a static game flow, you better believe you would see
a wall of soda machines as far as the eye can see. Well then.
That was my slideshow for today.
That was our slideshow for the
Throttle back.
I think it's the first time we've ever done that. Why have we never thought of that before?
Alright, let's go to the space news real quick.
Alright.
First up, we have another video from Dardiel, who is the Italian fan who made that incredible thing last week. This was in the news a couple days ago. Everybody's always said, Wing Commander is very similar to the original Battlestar Galactica. He decided to go out and prove it with a 45-second video on YouTube, we'll link to, that goes through and finds everything from Battlestar Galactica that they borrowed for Wing Commander 1. So here is that video.
Lovingly borrowed.
So, there was that.
Yep.
And, obviously some of those are coincidences and some of them are because Wing Commander 1 was heavily inspired by Battlestar Galactica.
Sure.
So, there we go. Next up, it's another ship from Clavs. I don't even need to say anything for you guys to know that this is going to be really neat. But he has been updating his Hornet model, making it a little bit more realistic. And here's some progression renders. He's special focus on the thruster nozzle and reworking the guns. So they're not as crazy sci-fi as the original, but they're still like reasonable and evoking. So
yeah,
watch this. Nozzles. Woo-hoo.
Oh. There you go, with some ordnance.
And last but not least, Admiral Maverick has another update to his Wing Commander miniatures game, which is this pilot console he's designed for it. So it looks confusing as heck, but I'm sure it's incredibly fun. Have you ever seen like X-Wing or anything like that? It's like this. So share that. And that's the space news. You segue us now?
Sure.
Here, segue us.
Segue us. So I'm feeling like we need to learn something.
Well, we learn.
I know we learn all
okay.
that, but no, something else.
All right.
I'm feeling that there is a hole in my life somehow, and today you have another object that will start filling that hole up completely.
I'm not gonna lie.
My love for ships.
That was not the best segue I've ever heard.
Well, what am I supposed to do for these ships?
But it was the worst segue I've ever heard.
Well, listen. Let's look at this ship for a second, and what do we like? Come on, is it the top of a hatchet?
This is the second part of our 18-part series to better know the Privateer 2 civilian ship. Right. And if you saw last week, I'm so sorry.
Yep. Be prepared. Be prepared.
So here today we have for you. You know what this is? Are you going to tell me what ship this is before
It is the Valacia.
It's actually pronounced Valety. No, yes,
Valacia. Oh, this is the big
I stole that joke.
Whore of a ship.
So this is the PL-02 Valacia light fighter.
Really rolls off the tongue and sticks in your memory.
And again, one of the reasons these Privateer 2 ships are so hard to learn is they all have these not quite real names, which definitely makes the tri-system feel alien, but also
very foreign and strange.
Yes. So this is the Valacia light fighter, PL-02, which implies it's the same manufacturer as the Strafe. And you can kind of see that the big distinguishing factor is this.
It's well hung.
Yes, let's call it a trigger. It's basically
it's a keel.
If you remember those old like Captain Power things where you'd have a toy that interacted with a VCR and you would hold up this spaceship and it would react. You don't remember that?
No, I don't have that.
Captain Power. I didn't have that either, but I remember seeing it in stores.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
So basically it's got this handle, like you would hold it up, and that's your visual cue for remembering the Valacia.
Gotcha.
So this boy or girl would have set you back 20,000 credits, which is twice the price of a Strafe. It is the second of the series of low-end ships, which includes the Strafe, the Valacia, the Skeksis. Skeksis is one that's a real word. Skeksis and Skeksis Mark II, Kawechi, and oddly enough, the Kindred Blade is a PL ship for whatever reason. There's lore there that we don't quite understand. Now, this little buddy is an all-around upgrade over the Strafe. It's anything is
like literally a string.
Mm-hmm. It is it's got a 5 DPS advantage in maneuverability all around. It has twice the armor of the Strength, 150 centimeters all around. Yep. It has an additional missile pod, an additional component. The acceleration goes from 35 to 54 kps squared. Whoa. It's a good improvement. If you somehow are playing Privateer 2 and you're getting very little money, then if you want to iteratively upgrade your ships, this is the way to go.
Yeah, that's the way to spend your money really slowly.
So there's the VDU image of it. I love the Privateer 2 VDUs. I think it's the last time we get those line-style VDUs in a Wing Commander game, and I love those compared to the others.
Yeah, they are awesome.
So default loadout, if you were fighting an NPC Valacia, 2 flux beams as the front guns.
Yep.
Missile-wise, it's got a single brute missile and 2 snipe missiles, and those are difficulty dependent. The snipes are level 3 and the brute is level 5. And that's your... Privateer 2 tracks you by giving you a rating from 0 to, it's like 15 or 18. Producer, write down, we'll look up exactly what the ratings are for next time, because I think I fumbled that last week also. Mm-hmm. But basically, it gives you a rating from 0 to something, and that determines how hard the game is. So at 0, people don't use their missiles, they don't use their guy, it makes the game much easier. But your rating goes up as you are more successful and you score more kills, so it gets harder, and it unlocks what the NPCs will use. Mm-hmm. And in terms of components, it's got it has 3 slots. It only uses 2 when it's flown by an NPC, and that is a wedge of high explosive mines. Again, difficulty level 3, and every level has a set of decoys. So
cool looking decoy.
Yeah, the components, and that's another one of those crazy details in Privateer 2 you never notice, is that there's actually a pretty high quality 3D model of every single component.
Yeah.
Only for the purpose of spinning in the booth animation.
Yeah. But they're always very good looking.
They are, and...
do we have any particular Valencia ships that used to roam the skyways?
Here they are. They're from the booth, just like last time. And again, someday we're going to make Wing Commander popular enough that these are like droids, where the really hardcore fans will be like, oh yeah, that's Chopper, or that's R5D4. The more Star Warsy you are, you learn more droids.
Sure. So
someday.
So what's our first proto droid name then, Benjamin?
This is D200 388L.
Just rolls off the old tongue.
Private vessel, licensed to travel anywhere within the Confederation, non-restricted space, and this is the one that sets our earliest date for it, which is 2767.
Yep.
It's 23 years old, which is pretty old for a ship in private. This is the design that's been around for a while. And again, I'll point out that isn't it cool that they have all these different color scheme renderings of the different ships for the different versions.
I do like the wing render on that with the orange, the white, and the blue. That's cool.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily like the nose orange, though.
You should talk to your paint guy. So this one here, this is kind of gray with red wig nubs and blue highlights. Gets used for 2 of them. G56832DY. Private vessel... Oh, this is a good one. Private vessel stolen from Mender Spaceport 6 weeks ago. Last seen near Hermes. So that's another one of those little background stories that... goes nowhere and connects to nothing, but it's neat for the texture of the universe. Yes. This ship got stolen from a spaceport. And the other one that
kind of pulls on our heartstrings, though, from Righteous Fire, right? We
know what it's like to have a spaceship stolen.
Yeah, we don't like when people steal our stuff. We get very angry at droids.
And we use the same scheme for Z234243D. Rolls off the tongue.
Yep.
Private vessel, 3-year service license to travel through all non-restricted Confederation space. And I should point out that one of the reasons I keep reading these is because I love these references to Confederation space. And we had such angry internet flame wars about whether this meant the Terran Confederation or something else. And whether this confirmed Privateer 2 was in the Wing Commander universe or something else. And boy, that was fun and also stupid, which is...
Yes, that was
our watchword.
There was a question earlier that I answered about asking if Privateer 2 was in our timeline.
Yes. So Privateer 2 is part of the Wing Commander timeline. It takes place about a little over 100 years after Wing Commander Prophecy. Yep. And as Origin put it, it is, quote, an isolated area far from the Confederation.
Yes, it's kind of like an area that cut off almost.
It's like Lost Tribe of the whatever.
It's like the jump point closed or something, so you can't get out of system or something without slow speed.
And here's our fourth and final Valencia, H643354D.
Yeah.
Private vessel, 4-year service, license to travel anywhere in the Confederation, and that's all boring. But here's the one that makes it an interesting, weird background story for this turquoise son of a gun.
Yeah.
License to kill. Apparently, there's a body that licenses ships to kill in the Tri-System, and this one got one. So last time we only had one wingman who flew straights. This time there are actually 3 possible wingmen who will fly Valetias.
Oh boy!
So get ready for that.
Good luck on that word.
Ignatius we're not even there yet. Yeah. This is the poster version of one of those renders. This guy, Ignatius Ferrarum.
Okay.
Rating connoisseur.
Higher
390 credits.
He better be cheaper than us. Good. He better be.
Quote, gonna batter fry your ass, amateur.
Okay.
And I don't know if I need to read all the bios for them there.
I would just sum his up.
Oh, you know what? His bio actually has one of my favorite references in it, which is to the Cod Wars. What the hell are the Cod Wars?
It's when
people fighting over fish in space? Yeah.
Yes. Listen, cod's a great bait fish, and you got to make sure you got plenty of it.
So here's Lazenby Simpson. He's one of the cheapest wingmen, 180.
Ooh, Blue Man Group.
Yes, and his ship is named Appleseed, by the way. That's from the bio.
Jeez.
There's a Velatia named Appleseed.
You should read his quote at least, because it's really not. Yeah.
I'm gonna get you now.
Yeah, he deserves 180.
Yeah,
he's really not exciting.
That's Admiral Thrawn's less successful brother.
Yes.
And finally, another connoisseur, Brad Califarian.
Oh, it's a pilgrim from New England.
Yeah, New England pilgrim. Yeah,
New England pilgrim, not from.
Yeah, but he's like a
French pilgrim.
I like sort of like a, I don't know, gender neutral pilgrim.
He reminds me like the Dutch boy and like, Dutch boy paints or something.
Yeah, or like super goth pilgrim. I don't know.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Anyway, his quote is "mess with the best, die like the rest, ... and other cliches."
Which tells you not good.
He's brash, arrogant, and impulsive according to his bio. So.
Oh boy.
Velatias appear in 2 missions, both of which are double crosses.
Oh, sons of bitches.
There's one mission. The mission is called Good Old Boys Haulage, so you know it's going to be good.
Yep.
You get an SOS message from the Good Old Boys Haulage that they're under attack. When you get there, it turns out it is in fact not the Good Old Boys Haulage. It is a man named Rocket Ronnie who has decided that your character has been causing too many. He's been, causing too much trouble in the tri-system, so this group of mercenaries is going to teach him a lesson, and one of them is flying a Velatia.
Oh boy.
The other one is a crazy 2-mission, which is called, usually I think it's Kane Borman Kill Olenka Yolson is how it's actually titled in the guide. But you get an email from somebody named Kane Borman from Craven Technologies, which is the company that's making the Craven Mark IV gun. It's that you
laser you want.
Game. Yeah, laser you want.
That's really it. Yeah.
And he says that this woman seduced him and stole those plans for his force projector gun, which is a new weapon for blasting holes in capital ships. And can you go hunt her down and kill her? And she's flying a Velatia. So you go off and you try to kill this lady, and she says, "Oh, I'm not some corporate raider. I'm a CIS agent, and this guy doesn't work for Craven at all. Go kill him." And you get to make the choice, Wing Commander 3 style choice.
Ooh.
Am I gonna go kill Kane Borman, who seems like a jerk? He uses some foul language about this lady that I won't repeat on the show, but I remember it sticking out to me when I was like 17. Like, oh, okay. And so you have to decide which you're going to help.
Yeah.
If you do that, she reveals that she is not a CIS agent at all. She works for a company called Shroud Industries and has made some payoff by getting Borman killed. So her whole thing was trying to kill him in the first place. And if you do kill her, then it's all right. He pays you, and it was true. Actually, it's not clear if it's true, because when you choose her version, she says, he wasn't who he said, but I'm not either. So who knows what the real story, there's three-edged sword.
Well, I'm not starting.
I was setting you up for a B5.
I did, I know, I saw that. But I know it's coming, that's the problem.
Well, let us jump into Privateer 2 for just a moment.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're going to do that?
Yeah, I'm going to take this guy out for a little
all right, good. I was going to say, that delays the inevitable.
Oh, well, the stinging, yes.
Yeah, it's a spoiler.
Well, we did it last week, so.
How did it... Let's see... How would it land? How would it land on anything? I guess it has extension, like legs extensions out of that.
Maybe there's a lot of. Producer, write this down. Let's look at the crazy landing scenes in Privateer 2 because they are amazing, and we have high-res versions of them now. There are crazy ways you land. You land in water. You land in like weird floating things. We'll check some of that out next week.
Yeah, there is a lot of weird. That's right. I do remember those weird ones now.
Yeah, they're really cool.
I remember being like, "That the hell."
So let's take off in this guy. We'll fly around for a minute, see what's what. There it is.
Ooh,
afterburner. You can see it's got a big old handle, and I mean, more to the point, the person who commented is absolutely right. There is no reason it should be able to land.
No, not unless it like lands upside down or lands in a tray and it's held up by things on the side or something. Yeah.
All right, let's fight a Krell.
Now make sure. Have you?
Look, here's my different gun.
Have you spoken to the Krell? Have you had multicultural diversity with them?
It's a Krill is the type of ship. It's a Kiowan ship.
I know it's a Kiowan. That's
You need to learn your pirate
I was talking about the
cultures.
Kiowan, but I was talking about having talked to the man in the
okay.
Krell.
No, but I got $50 for murdering it.
That's right. Yeah, that was actually one of my favorite parts about Privateer 2.
Yeah,
the bounties.
you immediately get the... Actually, Privateer 1 has that too. You kill a Karatha, you get money. But it doesn't tell you.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of little money sinks in the original Privateer. Like, you're charged $50 or 50 credits. 50. We're going to talk about that in a bit. 50 credits when you land on the planet for refueling, and
no one ever notices.
yeah, no one ever notices that money is gone.
No, not unless somebody's like an accountant keeping track of their credits like that. But usually you don't think about that because you're spending it. And I gotta go repair stuff. I got plenty of money, so you just look at the big number as opposed to the details. Look at all those rounds.
Yeah, look at how cool this is.
Privateer
And by the way, I'm having a much easier time. I'm still at like
Yes.
hardest or pretty hard difficulty, but it is much easier with this thing versus the Strafe, where I immediately got my butt whipped in this same setup.
Yeah, you have a bit more maneuverability.
And speed, I can actually trail somebody.
Yeah.
My afterburners are not burning. I mean, they're still burning up a little, but they're not.
You're not eating
not like
fuel
they
you
were.
Yeah, you use about 50% fuel and probably 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. Then well, here's the worst thing in the world. Ah, gosh.
Oh, God.
Gosh darn it.
It's just somebody's face on a spaceship.
I love the skull.
I mean, it's a great pirate
I
ship,
love the
but
look
it's-
of it, but I hate fighting them.
Yes, they suck. Like, for the exact reason here, as you're pumping out 50 million rounds, not one of those damn things hit.
No, it's so maneuverable and it's so frustrating, and I hate it.
Yep. And you rarely get it on the great deflection shot, which you need to hit it, because they'll spin right around.
But one of the things, when you're first playing a game, you're like, oh, I hate this thing. It's so hard to fight. Now I'm like, I love that I hate this thing. That's part of what makes the game great, is having parts you remember. And the skull is a ship everybody remembers, regardless of their feelings about this game, and I love it.
Yeah, it definitely. It's the Talon of Privateer 2 almost.
Well,
in terms of
there's a talent in Privateer 2,
yes, sir. I understand. But that's the one everybody kind of like. If there's one ship you ask somebody to name for Privateer 2, that would probably be it, though.
Just look how cool this game, how smooth it is, and it's a neat game. Anyway, that's the Valacia.
Yeah.
It's my straight wingman.
You got a Straith wingman? What are you?
I still have the.
skating?
Well, I just.
You kept
I went
him?
to my last save and I
You
bought
just-
this ship instead, so it's the exact same scenario.
Gotcha.
E Cantona that just exploded. That was named after a soccer player. E Cantona. There's weird stuff from it. This one looks like a taco, and it's called the Tacon. So, Privateer 2, man, it's a beautiful thing.
It's not even looking too terrible when you get the planet like it was last time.
Yeah, I fiddle with the cycles and things. I'm running at 70,000 cycles.
All right.
It's hard to get it. It's hard to get it to feel just like a Pentium 90 or so, but
Yeah.
you get there.
It's so funny that now we have to try to figure out how to slow down our computers to play something properly.
All the good games are slow.
It's true.
Fire one of them missiles.
Look at you. That's a special occasion. Ben fired a missile.
I'm going to see what they.
And of course,
Not
it's like,
a problem.
it does nothing, right?
It did nothing.
And that's what makes me. That's why I never fire missiles, because I get really mad when they miss.
Let's look at this. Suck it, J.J. Abrams. We had this first.
That's true. And that was a big deal. I remember that.
Yeah, it was really, because it's a neat trick. It's
Yeah.
It's so easy to do with like 3 images and a little calculation, and it looks really cool. Anyway, I'm gonna.
We are
pod.
sure.
So you like the Valacia now? You understand it?
I understand it. I'm not sure if we can like it.
Did your cocktail before the show give you enough bravery to sing the song?
It reminded me that I should have had a second on-show cocktail, because good God for us all.
So as we premiered last week in this exciting segment, we get to unlock the next. You know what? Before we start, I'm going to go to the. Go to the ship grid. You see, we unlocked the Strafe by doing this last week.
That's right. Yes, it requires this in order to be on. We've tried everything else, but it doesn't unlock.
Does not work without this. So we're going to sing Drunken Sailor by those ships.
Do you want to do what we talked about beforehand? trying to do it, the captain and the Sith.
Okay, I'll start it.
Do you want to?
I'll start it and then you start.
Just so everybody knows, this is going to go bad.
So badly, so bad.
So bad.
I mean, you would look at us and you'd say, why don't you practice? And like, obviously, we should not do that.
No.
The saddest thing in the world would be us practicing.
I didn't even want to...
Even sadder than this, which is very sad.
Yeah, I was trying to bring up a point earlier, and I didn't even want to sing it to prove my point. I just said it really like, yeah.
Oh, Privateer 2's got a lot of spaceships.
Privateer 2's got a lot of spaceships.
Privateer 2's got a lot of spaceships. Early in the morning. Beginner strength looks like some hot dogs.
Beginner strength looks like some hot dogs. Beginner strength looks like some hot dogs.
Early in the morning. Valacia Light Fighter's quite well endowed. Valacia Light Fighter's quite well endowed. Valacia Light Fighter's quite well endowed. Early in the morning. 16 more of these, guys.
That was actually not as horrifically...
No, that was very bad.
That was, well, not as bad as I expected us. We managed to keep our balance, which was impressive.
Okay, so here we go. We're going to unlock the next part of the ship grid.
Whoosh! Yeah.
You sat through that, you got that reward. That's the perfect psychological thing, isn't it?
Yes. That is your treat and your cookie for this one.
So next time around, we're going to be playing the PLO3 Skeksis. What is a Skeksis? You'll find out.
Oh. It sounds...
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, nothing really came right off the bat.
So next up, we're going to head back to the war.
Our story continues.
I've been one of those moods where I just watch a lot of Ken Burns documentaries. So I've been watching the World War II.
What do you mean? That's one of your. That's like your.
That's my main mood. But
that's your main mood. Yes. I was gonna say. What are you talking about?
But I keep. I was watching the World War II one, and like the old lady they have talking about her experience in the home front. The way she pronounces wah. The wah.
Is
the wah effective? And I just stuck in my head.
Is that the one? Isn't they from Connecticut or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
That's a New England way. Yeah, let's fight the wall down at Fenway. It's the Red Sox.
Sorry, we just had to take a moment to make fun of an old lady before we continue.
That's okay. We just talked about a well-endowed spaceship. That's okay.
So while we are starting this guy, I will point out that there's a question in the notes for you to ask during it. A fellow sent this to me on Twitter, and I wanted to respect that. We love getting questions. Okay, my
what have you done?
Space helmet is wrapped around my chair, so I'm going to do this sound free.
How badly is it wrapped?
I don't know. I'm not going to check.
All right, hold on. I'll see if it's.
No, I think it's not going to come out.
I think you're right.
I'm fine. I can play without sound.
All right. Well, you have to untie it for book club. That's all.
Absolutely, I will.
All right.
All right.
So I will begin the question though once we get into a little bit.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Oh,
your storyline.
Yep.
I'm Blair. Are you Blair?
Oh shit! Who was it last time?
I'll be Blair.
Were you? Yeah, that's fine.
Paladin, it's good to see you again. Nope.
Yeah, take. Likewise, laddie. Oh, lad. I wish I had brought up better news. I've been intercepting and decrypting Kirati transmissions. From what I've heard, it sounds like someone has already informed the Kirati about the Morningstar project.
Did you get any information from the human found on the Kirati freighter we captured?
He says they're delivering supplies to a secret Mandarin base called Ayers Rock.
I've never heard of any place called Ayers Rock before, because I'm not familiar with things that exist on Earth. I thought the Special Operations Group knew the locations of all Mandarin hiding places. Hey, look, I got it out.
Alright. Oh, I've heard of this one before, to be sure. Oh, that's a little too Irish. I just don't know where it is or anything else about it.
You're not a good spy.
But I intend to find out before much longer.
If I can be of any help, you know where to find me.
You work for me. I better know where to find you, laddie.
Briefing room, TCS Concordia.
The Confederation has taken considerable losses in the M sector. It is up to the Concordia to make a stand here. They always make her line so fast. To enable the 6th Battle Fleet to regroup and eventually reestablish a presence in this sector. The Kirathi are certainly tracking us. We bloodied them the last time they tried to force us out. No doubt they'll be out there again, waiting for us.
I want you to remember why you are serving aboard Concordia before you fly your patrol today. Here is my cat Mittens. You are here because you are the best.
Well, duh.
You listen as Angel gives out the assignments.
Maverick, you're leading Maniac, Crossbones, and Talon on a Morningstar test patrol. Patrol your nav points. Watch out for a minefield between nav 1 and nav 2. How about I just don't go near it? That is all, ladies and gentlemen. Dismissed. Remember Notre Dame.
In fact, I believe we're not able to go near it because it does not exist. There's in the actual mission files we've looked, the minefield is not there.
Sorry, buddy. You're talking about a minefield that never existed.
All right, thank you for sending me in a patrol and a broadsword.
Yeah, nothing quite like
This broadsword will escort the 3 super heavy fighters.
Yes, with their triple particle cannons and nuclear missiles.
Here comes our next victim.
Here comes our next. This is...
Uh-oh, and they're Strackas! Which are more of kind of an annoyance, and they cloak, but they go down like butter. Right? Beep, 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 beep. That great old cloaking sound. Look at those idiots. Those 2 idiots look like they just flew into each other as opposed
Sounded like they just flew into each
I
other.
was gonna say, it looked like it too. It looked like it too.
Whoa, don't shoot me, guys.
Yeah, this is one of those, another mission where, if your wingmen decide that they want to shoot through you, it's really bad. Because it's not just 2 particle cannons like on the Epi, it's 3! Although I think you're probably going so slow that it'd be hard for them to get behind you.
I've actually noticed that the wingman AIs in Special Operations 2 seem a lot better than the ones in...
Are you trying to say something about Bear and the other Gettysburg pilots? You're talking about a hero, son.
Heroes make mistakes. Like existing in the first place.
That's true. What do you chase? Oh, there he is. Straka on the run. On the run. Nothing quite like chasing somebody without afterburners.
Yeah, how fun.
Yep. And watching 3... Oh, look at that. That wasn't bad.
Hey, Talon, you suck. Me next... Oh,
Crossbones. Looks like he was the one getting shot by his wingmen.
Oh, apparently there's still a Straka near us.
Well, there he is. He was hiding.
Nice.
Ah, smooth sailing. Smooth sailing.
Oh, look, it's a single Gothry.
Oh, what could possibly go right? Nope.
Oh.
Nope. He just gave you a little love tap, though. Just a little love tap. Just a little love tap. So now I don't want to not wait, or wait a second again, because I have a funny feeling this is one of those ones where it's a quick going mission. Oh.
That took out one of them.
Blair, you just speak on what is the situation?
My wingman ejected.
I'm using search and rescues on the way, Blair. Continue your mission alone.
Affirmative, Blair out.
Giving her a real weird voice. Figure just go crazy.
Yeah.
Sometimes I guess we should really add some more variety to our voice acting.
What do we have here? A bunch of jockey.
Oh, this sounds like a perfect moment then to introduce the question, as I see a stack of jockey. So, asked from Twitter user Spaceboy, I guess is how you pronounce that? I don't really know. He asked, if you were to take all the versions of Wing Commander and Frankenstein them into a game, what 4 elements from those games and what element from any non-Wing Commander game would you take 4? And he has given us the variables of timeline, graphics, sound effects, music, and mechanics. So if we were to build the ultimate Wing Commander Frankenstein and we had complete freedom to pick pieces apart, what would we do?
Alright, what's the first category?
Timeline.
Timeline, and that would have to be from a Wing Commander. I think he specified that later.
Oh, because I have an immediate period I'm thinking of that's probably the same one you thought of at first until there was a limit placed on this.
What are you thinking?
I was thinking of the ever blank 2640s.
That would be pretty neat.
to explore that, because that decade has very little actually in terms of the timeline events.
Yeah, and gameplay wise, it would be a neat reason to make the game easier, even more arcadey. You know,
Yeah.
shields are better there, and shields are worse.
Yeah, you would certainly play with more of the idea of it being not long after torpedoes had been first invented, so that you could kind of explore that mechanic, right? You'd have still a lot of battleships flying around. We don't really see as much later on.
That or I would do Wing Commander 2 era 2660s. I think there's a lot more there to explore.
Certainly. Yeah, especially the earlier part of the decade. What do you have to report? Well, I'm waiting.
Nav 1 was deserted. At Nav 2, there were 4 Straka fighters. None of them survived. At Nav 3, there was a single Gothri who tried to take us all on by himself. Or herself. He didn't have a chance against me, of course.
Of course.
Kind of a dick player.
What did you find in there for?
There were 4 Jalki fighters waiting for us. We couldn't take all of them out. Well, they must have run away or crashed into something.
I'll take this initiative tactical immediately. Dismissed, Maverick.
Alright, things are going well.
Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely probably keep the timeline as well in the war itself. Not going into like the Prophecy era or Wing Commander 4 era.
Barracks, TCS Concordia.
We gotta do this stuff, sorry. What we got here? Who's up? Hey, this is a friendly little game of cards, Maverick! Just like the old days! Because Maniac loves crack. I thought this would be a good way for you to get to know the rest of the Wild Eagles a little better.
I'll do the Wild Eagles.
This guy on my left is Captain Jeffrey Talon Berkmere. I can't even read that fast.
I speak Kilrathi, or at least I do as fluently as any human can.
Okay, Kendall. That's you.
I also study Kilrathi battle tactics and history. I'm kind of a nerd for Kilrathi. Hardly what I call a relaxing pastime.
Now I'd like to meet Captain Markham Crossbones Colt. This guy's an ace and he flies exactly the way I do. Haha.
Isn't that just a bit dangerous, Crossbones?
Hey, you know how it is. If it's time to get your ticket punched, you can't do anything about it. It's no big deal.
You and Captain Grimaldi already know each other, of course.
Not as well as I'd like to. Yes. Well, whose turn is it to deal again?
I believe it's yours. And then the game ends and we don't know how who won.
There's one question I have about these Wing Commander 2 poker scenes, which are often used to introduce somebody.
Yep.
But we always enter them in media res. Especially the one with Hobbs, where they're like midway through the conversation. Have you met Hobbs? And Blair's like, surely you don't mean like, yes, the 8-foot tall cat sitting across from you who you've been playing poker with for an hour.
I'm sorry, I had my sunglasses and my hat pulled down because I used to be in the World Championship of Poker, okay? I'm sorry, I didn't look up. That's not how I play.
The bridge, TCS Concordia.
Uh-oh.
Your report, Colonel Levereau.
Admiral, our scanners detect a wave of Kilrathi fighters approaching from the asteroid field.
Scrabble fighters. Red alert, attack craft approaching. Was she not going to say that if he hadn't asked for a report?
Colonel Blair and Captain Wright, report to the flight deck immediately.
By the way, one of the oddities about... We'll get back to the question as we fly the mission.
Oh, yeah.
One of the oddities about the Special Operations discs is you learn Stingray's name for the first time, but it's across the two of them. Blair refers to him as Dirk for the first time in Special Ops 1.
Stingray.
Oh, of course, sir.
No, that's...
Yeah,
Of course, already attacking your command.
These cats thought they launched a surprise attack on the Concordia. Let's give him a little surprise of our own, Stingray.
Hey, target practice.
Okay.
But yeah, so you learn his name across both expansions?
Yeah, his first name is from one and
Well, you
last name is
know,
the other.
that's world building, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so timeline
Well, let's put it in the 40s. Let's put it in the
Let's
2640s.
put 40s. Well, but okay. Well, the next one is graphics. Now I have to say, I mean, well, no, actually, no. I'll save that for mechanics.
I mean, graphics would be an easy one to steal from some other game. You know, you say, "Oh, I want it to look like Star Citizen." Well, that makes sense. But it also seems like it's not fair. You know, let's say, what graphic style would you want from a?
Well, that's what I was kind of thinking.
Super Wing,
Yeah.
Wing 3,
Like the era of spacecraft and stuff. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my first thought was like I really like kind of the Prophecy ones, but then I think the Vision engine is really kind of the pinnacle of Wing Commander spaceflight in a lot of ways.
Watch your target, Trek.
But I would say that's the mechanical part as opposed to the graphics part. Graphically, I mean, Wing Commander 2 is very beautiful in that regard. So I mean, I would go not with maybe these type of graphics, but you know, these, I guess, updated.
Okay.
If we can do that.
Yeah, I would. For me, I'm going to say Wing Commander 1. I think that's when the stuff looked the best. I know there's a lot of stuff that, oh, that's a Gunstar. But
Yeah.
I love that style. I like that Battlestar Galactica shameless look.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a reason they chose to design the Raptor Light. It's a cool-looking fighter.
Yeah, cool as heck.
I mean, that's what's most important. I don't think anything else necessarily matters. Sound effects.
You are clear
Sound
to
effects.
land.
Sound effects.
Part of me, is it weird? My first thought was I closed my eyes and I pictured the shield impacts of Armada.
Yeah, you're right. There's some cool stuff. Report to the bridge
it is-
immediately,
sure,
sir.
We get it back to this.
The bridge, TCS Concordia.
God, why is these pauses so?
Colonel Blair, Captain Wright, let's hear your report. They really want us to know he's Captain Wright.
Yep.
Mr. Wright. There were 6 Gothries and 1 K-Mech. Now 4 of them Stingray blanked. Your fast action has saved the Concordia's officers. The Confederation has lost a lot of ships in this area.
We know. We know.
And Karathika now focus on us as their primary target. We must be ready to repel their other attacks at any time.
It's like we're a military ship in war.
I will mention your fine work in my next report to the High Command. Dismissed. We got mentioned in dispatches!
Yeah! I was gonna make that same joke before you. I was like, oh man, woo! Towing you, Brit you. Yeah. And as you're doing that, there's a chat question asking about why Wing 3 and 4 never had glide support.
They predated,
I was gonna
they
say, I
predated
thought-
Glide by several years.
Isn't glide what comes in around Prophecy?
Yeah, 3FX
Yeah,
glide
okay.
mode. So there were no 3D cards like that in 94, 95, which was when Wing 3 and 4 happened. And the engine of Wing 3 or 4 was built for Strike Commander in 92, 93. So it was actually on its last legs when Wing 4 came out.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why they built a fancy new engine for Prophecy.
Yeah.
But that it all predated that stuff. Colonel Blair, report to the flight deck immediately.
No, I think he meant glide support like that, not Shelton. Because Shelton slide is the slide, kind of is in those.
Yeah, it's that kind of slide in there. He's thinking we would have called it 3DFX mode in 1997.
Yeah.
Today we look back at it as glide.
Yeah. Oh no, they were asking because they meant the
wow,
Shelton
okay.
slide itself. Maverick, the Concordia is currently passing through a dense concentration. I can't read that fast. The earlier karate sneak attack was no doubt the first favor consolidate. I can't read that
What
fast.
the hell is his voice?
I don't know. I want to do something different. We detect these lines. Why are those lines going so fast and the angels take 100 years? Blah 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 blah. You got
It's good
stuff
to be
do.
flying with you, Maverick. Oh, I remember this mission. Let's hope you still think so after we chase down the source of those transmissions.
Yeah, I was just trying to be the weird guy on comm duty for all, they can't all sound like, you gotta sound like crazy people at times. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I hope so. I hope so. No, you're dead.
Oh, asteroids. That's not fun.
All right. So sound effects. I said. What did you think? Do you want to add anything to those?
I can't think of anything else for sound effects. I mean, yeah, I think Wing 4 was probably the master of Wing Commander Foley art, so it's probably about where we want to be.
Okay, and then a slight change would be music.
Music.
Cobalt
I mean-
60 all the time.
Now, music, I mean, traditionally you think of music going down to the choice between the Fat Man and George Oldzier. And I would go with George Oldzier for, if it were a military game. You know, if we were doing Wing Commander 6 or Wing Commander 7 or a Wing Commander prequel.
Sure.
But I don't think there's any better music than the atmospheric stuff in Privateer by Nina Vugranek,
yes.
which is just incredible.
Yes.
That
those little dots and
Yeah.
things. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and once you have a sound canvas with that, it's amazing. Even the Marshall themes for like Perry sound so good. So you know what? No, let's give it to theoretical. If he were still doing game music, let's give it to him.
Okay, yeah, I would definitely, because those are, it's like the things with, you know, the shield effects and gun sounds in Armada. It's like a little, you don't always think of because you think of the bigger games, but then those bring those in. Yeah, like the second you said that, I can hear, you know, the takeoff sound or the you are now entering an automatic landing zone.
It's so well done.
Yes, and those are the things that really get you dragged into it. Definitely. And lastly is mechanics.
Mechanics. Well, I think we've used Wing Commander games for all the others, so we have to take a mechanic from another game.
Oh, okay. You want to? Oh, jeez.
Now, the obvious, easy one that we would all say immediately is first-person shooter stuff. It totally makes sense to replace the game flow part of Wing Commander with first-person shooter. Walk around the carrier, and then you can do boarding missions, and you can add all this variety to your. You know, once you have that in there. But that's too easy. That's what everybody has already figured
I'm just
out.
shaking my head because, God, why do they always try to have pilots do things that pilots don't do?
I mean, you need that variation.
No,
Nobody wants to play 50 missions of
That's true.
Wing Commander
That's
anymore,
true.
unfortunately.
Which is,
And I think you could do it in a respectful way.
yeah, I mean, I guess with modern technology, it's a little bit.
Oh!
My goodness, that was a cacophony of disaster.
Yeah,
right
that was
there.
a bad one. No, I'm gonna go straight to
You I don't even know.
clear out those guys first.
Like, because you rammed and got
No,
shot
I didn't
from
ram
me?
him. It was
No, yeah, you got
that was pure gunshot.
mechanic. So I will switch it up a lot, and instead of doing the first-person shooter, I would instead, I don't know how to describe it. My thought is to say like pull back a level. So instead of being like, what I'm thinking of is the old, probably 10 years ago, there were two games called Battle Stations Midway and Battle Stations Pacific, which allowed you to fly, you know, fighters and bombers, pilot, you know, control ships, fire battleship guns, operate submarines, and take it that mechanic. So, you know, that way you could launch, you know, a giant strike from the Concordia and aim it at an enemy carrier. And have, you know, your corvettes and frigates try to go around and escort and things like that. Like, make a Armada plus, if you will. Like, add those extra things.
I like that idea. I mean, if I'm trying to make another single-player Wing Commander, I don't necessarily want to go that deep. But
Well, you could do. I think you could probably do, because they both those games have kind of campaigns.
yeah,
That they had, like, take a part of that mechanic and just use, like, one or two at a time. And in the final of the game, it's like you play the Battle of Midway, but it's broken up into sections. Where the multiplayer version, you're doing all that stuff at once, which I'd spent hundreds of hours doing. I used to love that.
and just other stuff in general. I think VR would be a really good fit for Wing Commander. VR is not so good for a first-person shooter because you don't feel like you're walking around. You're using controller, but when you're seated in a ship and if you can look around, it's fantastic.
Sure. That's and if you can, you know, in that case, having controllers and things and buttons doesn't break your immersion; it adds to it.
Definitely.
Totally. Yeah, because you could have like just, you know, a switch, whatever, and the switch itself doesn't actually, I don't know, it could be wired or not. It could literally just be something you click, and the game knows that when you do that, it needs to do this.
And co-op multiplayer would be a huge for Wing Commander.
Yes.
You know, the game is almost crying out for that. It's a game where you and your friend fly together.
I mean, and that's one of the big things that, you know, since HCL started hacking into Prophecy all those years ago and unlocked the multiplayer abilities, one of the things that everybody's always asked forever is, we need more in there. Like, what do you want to do? I want to be able to, literally pull up on Loaf's wing, look over and wave and say, all right, how long until you have lock?
Yeah.
I'm going to go cover you. And then have all of, the carrier and all of the other action going around, anti-aircraft fire coming up. I mean, that would be amazing.
And of course, for Privateer, it's massively multiplayer. That makes sense for Privateer.
Yeah.
But, obviously there. Maverick, we've just decoded the transmissions from Nav 3. It's a warning beacon from a timed explosive device.
What?
Get out of there immediately.
The future sure is stuck in the past sometimes.
Why is this device warning us?
Yeah, I don't know. Typically, my understanding of bombs is that you don't give warning.
So that's a cool, weird little encounter right there. One of those things that they do in, trying to mix it up in these add-ons. If you stay and fight all those Sartha that are instead of after burning away, once you kill the last one, the explosion goes off and sets off all the mines, and you die immediately. So you have to hoof it out of there.
So you have chosen poorly. Welcome back, sir!
And, if you are one of those kill-obsessed people, you can get like 5 kills and leave the last one. Wasp almost always screws that up. Colonel Devereaux's office.
I'm glad to see you made it back safely, Chris.
Ooh, first name basis.
What do you have to report?
I just got out of Nav 3 before the bomb went off. That warning came just in time. A few more seconds and I would have been vaporized. Vaporized?
Nah, I like vaporized better.
Vaporized. Aside from that, I ran into 3 Drakri at Nav 1.
Uh-oh.
I encountered 3 Jalki fighters at Nav 2. At Nav 3, there were 4 Sartha hiding in the asteroids. I only managed to take down 5 of the enemy on this. Only an ace in a day.
Yeah, for like the 4,000th time.
You look like you need a little rest, mon cher.
You've earned it. Dismissed. Oh, what's she putting down? Oh. So some of the other comments from the crowd were, how about loyalty-style missions like Mass Effect? I never got past like the first 5 minutes of Mass Effect because I got bored.
Yeah, I kind of like that idea. You could earn the trust of... Wing Commander 3 almost is that, because you do have to earn the trust of your women with the moral choices. It's just not clear at all.
Yep.
So, you have to make Maniac or anybody fly better, there's a certain threshold on their morale.
Maniac fly better?
And anybody. Well, every Wing Commander...
gotcha.
Every Wing Commander 2 NPC has 2 levels of AI. One is if they're depressed, and one is if they're happy. And if you're a jerk to them, then they're not happy. But I could see definitely doing that with, you fly with this wingman, and then after you've unlocked some particular side mission, like imagine if in Wing Commander 3, if you've gone to save Flint and you choose yes, go save her, then that makes Flint fly better or trust you more or something. Definitely.
Yeah, certainly.
Let's throw her storyline. Observation deck, TCS Concordia. What's wrong, Crossbones? Everybody's been acting like they're at a funeral.
He looks weird.
The Mandarins have been making propaganda broadcasts. Received one while you were on patrol.
Trying to make him Charles Celeste.
They showed the hijacking of 2 Terran freighters. Jazz Coulson was leading them. Damn you for letting him go, Maverick. Damn you.
I didn't let him go. Mandarins rescued him. Which is true. 10 minutes later, Eric's TCS Concordia.
Would have been better if I punched you.
What do you want to talk to me about, Minx?
I don't know, she's standing a little provocatively.
You look lonely, Chris.
I'm Minx. I'm Minx. I thought you could use a sympathetic ear. Jazz Coulson's been on me like a curse for the last 10 years.
You're flirting with yourself.
I'd sacrificed better than the other way around. I've sacrificed my career, sacrificed everything, even my life, to be rid of him. You're a highly skilled pilot and an officer who follows orders.
Meow.
You're too valuable to be sacrificed for so little.
Oh, hey.
Minx, I don't know what to say.
You're a little minxy.
Then don't say anything, Chris. This is Valerie from 90210.
Oh, that looks like she forced, and then it just ends after
Yeah.
she forces herself on him.
But then...
Did she just force herself on a superior officer too?
Apparently, yeah.
Flight deck. TCS Concordia.
Hey, handsome, you missed one hell of a killer patrol.
Who says that?
Minx, What are you doing back from your patrol already? And where's your wingman?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. He's angry, Blair. Still in Nav 1, we encountered a massive enemy force. I was ordered to return immediately to the Concordia.
So you're a massive force, Christopher.
This isn't a simulator exercise, Captain. When you leave your wingman behind, you're leaving him to die. But Angel ordered me back to the Concordia so the Kilrathi wouldn't capture the Morning Star.
Oh, Minx.
You mean Angel was your wingman? Angel is still out there? Yeah, she said she'd hold off the Kilrathi and then head back here.
Because that makes sense.
Excuse me, I have work to do.
Dun, 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 dun. I'm gonna go save my girlfriend. But from the woman, that's great. So you put your girlfriend, and then the wannabe mistress on the same mission.
Hmm. Yeah, things change very quickly in this.
And then, interestingly enough, your wannabe mistress comes home, but the woman you love does not.
Mon cher, I'm okay.
Oh, look, she's fine.
It is alright, I am okay.
That was that. All right, so we built our game. It would be the 2640s using the Wing Commander 2-ish graphical style, and you said Wing Commander 1.
Yeah, I said Wing Commander 1.
Sound effects with Armada, music, Privateer, and then we had a whole lot of mechanical extras we wanted to add then.
Yes.
Which all could be great, those are all great, sub-genre Wing Commander games, you know?
Weather is something I'd like to see in a Wing Commander game, too.
Space weather?
Space weather, yeah.
Oh, of course.
One thing to make space more interesting is absolutely,
Weather?
we've got asteroid fields, we've got minefields, why not, pulsars, quasars, space lightning, just stuff to give texture to space.
And would you want these to be things like you're interacting with, or just kind of the skybox?
No, things I interact with. I think that's one of the ways to make the game much more interesting. Because
Sure.
one of the problems with Wing Commander, as a competitive thing over the years, is it's a first-person shooter without a floor to some degree.
Yeah.
Which could be better. It was amazing at the time, but now you look at it and you think, oh, it's a K-Mech.
Yeah.
Angel's gonna get
Enemy
that.
capital
Okay.
ship
Yep.
destroyed.
Nice.
Jeez, she 6 blast damage.
Mm-hmm. Angry. She probably could have done that by herself.
Yeah, because that's one of the if you go to pick some really memorable missions from Wing 3 and 4, it's stuff like the Nebula.
Yeah,
and
and
the Jammer mission.
The Nebula is an example of something Wing Commander 3 could do so much better today.
Yeah.
It's really just like a patina over the screen then, but
Yeah.
today it could be the Star Trek II Nebula battle.
Sure.
Looks like it was a tough fight, sir.
I love how we're treating Sparks just like Fortune does. Anybody reads her lines.
Colonel Devereaux's office. Angel, are you all right?
Are we gonna get down?
Yes, mon ami. Thank you for helping me out of that bad situation.
I still can't believe Minx just left you out there. Whore.
Minx went back for help at my order. I didn't want to lose the Morningstar prototype.
Then why are we testing it in combat? Angel, you're more important than a prototype fighter.
I also noticed they keep changing the spelling.
Especially to me.
Sometimes it's one word, sometimes it's two.
I'm sorry that we haven't had much time for each other lately, Chris. When I thought I might die without ever seeing you again. Hold me.
Please don't touch me.
Hopefully the camera didn't catch that either. Let's see. Oh, you can see my hand on your shoulder.
no.
That's perfect. Oh my god.
Well,
I think our story.
was 4.
I think that's a time to end the story for today.
absolutely. So we didn't actually get to fly the Morning Star yet, but next time we absolutely will. And by the way, we cut through that like with a knife through butter. One die. No, it was bad at all.
That part might have been I don't want to call it the easiest, but the smoothest set of missions thus far.
Yeah. So thank you to, I'm apologizing if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but Gajo Rasik. Thank you so much for asking that question. And
Giving us some filler.
anybody out there who has questions, we would love to answer them either while we're playing or in Agora Card Talk.
Yeah, we can split them up because one of the things you notice is that on some of the hard missions. If we start talking about other stuff, Ben just forgets that we're here, and then we, but then we also get works of beauty. Yeah. I mean, I feel like, the replay of your Gorkar 2D is like the greatest combination of things that never happens. But they happen in a single mission.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, anything we could have broadcast, that was great. That was really great.
All right, here's the cargo bay, which is very short this week. I think we only have one little edition, but...
Mm-hmm. Ta-da!
We do our own Foley, people.
Yes.
So this is actually not something that came in the mail, but rather something I found in my basement unpacking. I've been... I've got this special disc reader for recovering 5 1/4-inch discs. I'm trying to find, and because Joe Garrity has a project that needs it, so I've been looking through all my boxes downstairs. I still haven't found it, but I found these, which I forgot I owned and then I forgot existed. So, this is 2 issues of Amazing Stories magazine from 1992 and 1993.
Okay. Oh, here, let me do this to get rid of some of the glare.
Oh yeah.
No. It's not.
And why, of course, is the question you ask.
Why, sir?
Let me find that in there.
Please, and I will demonstrate this one. This one looks like it came from a privateer wingman right here.
So one thing I absolutely love, there are 7 million different game magazines with Wing Commander, but there are very few sci-fi book ones. So whenever I find like an article about the Wing Commander books or something connected to the Wing Commander books, I get really excited. So here you can show this. What this is to advertise the Wing Commander novels, the first 2, Ben actually paid to have preview chapters put in Amazing Stories magazine, which was a big sci-fi lit magazine at the time. It may be back now. It comes and goes over the years. But this has one chapter of End Run. The other one has a chapter of Freedom Flight, which is really neat to see. And I know that's totally stupid, but it's super fun to find this same... I've read that chapter 10 million times, but it's super neat to see it presented in a glossy magazine.
This is a very nice magazine as well. They're amazing stories.
Yeah, this was this period in the 90s where they stopped, because the traditional sci-fi pulp mag is this really little kind of newsprinty thing, and they, in the mid to late 90s when sci-fi TV was king, they tried to do these big glossy retakes on them, and it didn't stick around. You get on Asimov's or something today, and it's still like it was 30 years ago, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago.
I walked with Fidel. I walked with him.
So, that is all I have to show off this week, I think, unless there's anything fun over here. No. We did get a suggestion from somebody, which was that we should start showing off old stuff that we haven't seen before, and I agree. So we'll do like Antiques Roadshow, Antique Space Roadshow in the future. And with that, we're going to go to our last segment of the night, which is the Fleet Action Book Club. We have been kind of slowly reading Wing Commander Fleet Action over the past... Well, we did End Run, and now we're doing Fleet Action. Yes. Tonight we're reading chapters 2 and 3 of Fleet Action, and we're going to talk all about them in our book club section. If you would like to join us and talk about them, you're welcome to join our Discord server, which has a special voice chat, which I'm actually going to join right now, so I'm in there. Hey guys, let me know if you can hear me, and also let me know if you can't hear me.
Oh, what could this be?
What?
Oh, hey! This was an unplanned secret surprise.
I heard there was a birthday.
Yay! There is a birthday this week, and it is that gentleman's tomorrow. So we have some special prizes for you that we didn't tell you about, that your wife did.
It's this cake.
Hooray! That means
so we're going to sing to you.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
All right, are we ready?
I'm ready. I've already been singing this evening.
Let's go.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Benjamin.
I was sure we were going with Love.
That's what I figured too. I had no idea. I figured you'd want to be more appropriate for your husband. Happy birthday to you.
All right.
That's your
All
turn.
right,
Blow out the
okay.
candles.
Oh God, they're falling apart.
That's okay.
Yay!
Huzzah! And on this week of the Cargo Bay, we have cake.
And
That's
you
right.
have to wear this stupid
That's right.
little hat.
And I told her.
and that's yours.
That's right. I said we were going to put the hats on.
Well, thank you.
I told her. Yes.
All right, I will leave you to your book club.
Drive-by caking.
She taking the cake?
She's taking the cake. We can have that for
after the show.
Yeah, that's for discovery, not for now.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. We figured that would catch you off guard. Especially the knock entrance. We were like, just come right in.
I was not expecting that. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Because I could tell you were looking at me. Why is he texting? He never texts us during the show. Why is he texting so much? Because I was trying to tell her when she should come in. So we timed it right before book club, so everybody would be here.
Well, hey, out there in book club, by the way, let me know if you were.
Oh no, I have to figure
hearing
my
me.
setup all of a sudden. Yep. Oh goodness.
Okay, cool.
Let me.
We're good.
I think we're.
All right, well, I'm going to jump over to the book club now. Ha ha!
Oh, it's that one.
So, you guys are on the air now. If you want to say anything before we get started here, we're just sorting out our...
Oh, I've done this in the wrong order.
Wrong order. I found something new this week. We were talking a little bit about ways to get audiobooks a couple weeks ago, and we talked about how the Amazon Alexa will play your audiobooks, but also your iPhone or iOS device will too if you go into accessibility and turn on screen speech or something like that.
Oh, it's interesting.
And the pronunciation is not good and so forth, but you can listen to it in the car or whatever, and it'll read your page after page after page, and you do like a 2-finger double swipe on the screen.
Sit low.
And it'll play right where you left off, and it's pretty cool.
Well,
That's an option.
in fact, I'm thinking of something totally unrelated now, but when they first did Wing Commander Academy, the TV show, and the first half of the show they did captions through like the National Center for the Hearing Impaired, and they would just send the episode without a transcript. So if you go and turn on closed captioning on the early Wing Commander Academy episodes, it's all try to heard by sound. So it's Admiral Tallwood, it's the Kilrappy with a P. So that's what that reminded me of. So anyway. Thank you for the birthday wishes, everybody. I see folks in chat. That's very nice.
This
Thank
is why
you
we
so
did
much.
this, to throw you. We figured it would throw you off right here.
But I'm
almost
not.
falling off my
I'm
chair.
a professional like myself. I don't know.
You gotta show off your crown, though. I'm trying to get low so they can make sure.
Oh
to see.
yeah. Well, the book club, we leave space for the other people, but
That's right.
I do have a crown on. Thank you.
That's right.
I look like Archie's friend.
Bergster.
Bergster. What is Archie's friend's name?
Jughead.
Jughead.
The guy who
okay.
likes hamburgers.
Bergster is pretty good. Okay. Anyway, welcome to Book Club, the part of the show where we talk about a Wing Commander novel, and we've been slowly, methodically going through them. This is chapter 2 and 3 of Fleet Action. We will put out a warning before we start talking about this.
Yep. Trigger alerts. Of
These
all
two
kinds.
chapters are as political
Yep.
as anything in Wing Commander could possibly be. We've talked about Bill Forstchen's politics a couple times before. This is the nexus of it. This is some stuff you can't get away from. So we may be a little bit political here, which is unfortunate because that's stupid.
And today of all days.
And today of all days, yes, everything's a mess in the world.
Yes.
But, absolute respect for anybody commenting on, none of your opinions are wrong. Just wanted to get that out there before we do this.
Yeah, because it's going to be unfortunate. We're going to dance around a lot of it, but it's hard to...
It's hard to avoid.
I mean, our promo really showed the injection of the politics in there, as I represented Dr. Torg.
So, Chapter 2, if you remember from last time, we found out that the war has stopped because the Kilrathi have sued for peace, and none of our characters trust them, and we've actually already established in the prologue that there's a reason not to trust them because it's a trick. So we know everything's wrong, but the Confederation government does not. So Chapter 2 opens up, it's a couple weeks later, and it's the signing of the Armistice Treaty between the Confederation and the Kilrathi, and we start by following Bear, and he leaves. Bear and Hunter have been assigned to be Admiral Tallwin's attachés, and they are at the signing, and this is a prestigious thing. And Bear needs to go to the bathroom, so he sneaks out and he runs into a bunch of reporters, and we have our first moment.
Yeah,
where it's all these reporters who are like, you hate you military hate the peace, and he gives this little speech about how he doesn't hate peace. He just knows he's worked so hard to fight the enemy. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But
yeah,
he basically screws up and gives this. Bill Forstchen has a bunch of times where he likes to give this speech where our hero character gives this speech about the nobility of service. So he does that, and then we go into the actual the signing. We meet our characters meet Baron Jukaga for the first time, who's kind of the Kilrathi Cromwell, who is orchestrating all this. And we have one more round of these speeches about how we can't trust the Kilrathi, and Admiral Tolwyn does not want the war to end, and they'll fuss. The signing goes on, and then we have this encounter between Admiral Tolwyn and a Kilrathi carrier captain, and the Kilrathi carrier captain is like, "Oh, you were responsible for the action at at Monroe 2 weeks ago, 10 days ago, whatever it was, and I had clan blood on that ship. You destroyed that carrier after the armistice was agreed upon. This is wrong." And Baron Jukaga comes like, No, it's fine. These humans are wonderful. I studied their art and their culture, and they get into another little battle of wits, but that's the chapter. So
yep. Little Count Dracula there, huh?
Yes, that's my Count Dracula voice.
I am Baron Jukaga. I'm here to suck your blood.
I will count all the violations of the peace treaty. One violation of the peace treaty.
Wait, that's the Count. That's not Count.
Yeah, we very quickly become the Count.
Oh.
So chapter 3. Chapter 3 has 3 parts. We start off with the Tarawa has arrived at Fleet Yard 5 for decommissioning because they're shutting down the Navy very rapidly, and we get all this inner monologue about those dumb idiots in the government who don't understand that the tip of the spear needs to be defending the Confederation, and how dare they agree to shut down all these carriers. Anyway, they're decommissioning the Tarawa, and everybody's out of a job, and they all kind of sadly say goodbye to it, and we kind of get all our characters together again. It's Kevin Tolwyn, Bear, Hunter, Sparks, who gets introduced in a parenthetical, are all there, and they're all leading together.
The only parenthetical in both chapters.
I've never just seen a book that does that. It introduces one of its main characters, explaining who they are in parentheses after their names.
Yeah.
And Sparks, parentheses, his head of fighters.
We read the other book.
Oh, Doomsday, of course, is there.
Yeah.
So next we go to a courtroom where we find that Admiral Tolwyn has been court-martialed for continuing to destroy a Kilrathi carrier after the armistice was agreed to. And there's this ceremony where his mentor, Admiral Bambridge, the typical sci-fi novel thing where they, you've been disgraced, your emblems are ripped off, they break your sword. There's all variations of this we'll see. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Cashiered.
Cashiered.
And the Kilrathi ambassadors, will he commit suicide? Will he commit Zukara now? And they're like, no, that's not our way. And they go, so we see that the piece is already breaking down. The Kilrathi have not delivered their POWs as promised. They're doing stuff like trolling the Confederation to get admirals fired and so on.
Yeah, it's really the worst. It's like I almost said tweetbook. Twitter and Facebook all in one. Twacebook. And
then we jump to last part of the chapter. We jump to the moon. And of course, you're saying everything's great on the moon.
Yeah.
No, things are not good at the moon. We find out that the state of the Confederation is a mess right now because all these soldiers have been decommissioned at once, and there's record unemployment. Nobody can get a job. All of our heroes are, spending they're struggling. And it's this bar on the moon called the Vacuum Breathers. Yep. And we have the most obnoxious thing in the world, which is that this
Dr. Torg's the name.
Dr. Torg shows up, who is, if you've ever read any sort of a conservative fantasy jerk-off novel, and it works in reverse too, it's just that happens to be what it is here.
Yes.
And he's this, bloated, angry, liberal college professor who thinks the military is evil, and he's going to say it to their faces, and then, of course, everybody argues with him, and everybody else is right because they're the heroes, and everything he says is dumb, and how dare he trust the Kilrathi, and it's kind of embarrassing of us.
Yeah,
but it's
talk about that.
Yeah, do you know the Reddit r/that happened where they every time somebody writes a little story that's too good to be true, like the cashier said to me this and I had this bomo and that happened.
Yeah,
this is a that happened moment for Fleet Action because it's just so like this man is wrong about everything and our heroes are right.
It's every trope in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, at one point, well, what are you professor? I'm a professor of sociology. Oh, so nothing actually useful. Because then we have the counter guy who's, I have a PhD in aerospace.
And, the military guys are so wonderful that even the ladies who are there with Dr. Torg, they leave him because they'd rather be with these cool military... Anyway.
Well, that's one thing I almost thought about adding to the document is that we have one single light radar ping on the Bondaversky horniness meter.
Yes.
Very slender brunettes.
He considers going out with Elaine, but decides not to because his wounds are too fresh.
That's right.
But the chapter then picks up quite a lot with the return appearance of Kira, the Kilrathi traitor, not even intentional traitor, but he's defector. He's oath sworn to Hunter.
Yep.
This is all from from Freedom Flight, and now he has joined our group, and they have this conversation with him, and he kind of explains the situation in the Kilrathi Empire, and you understand that, this is why it is this way. We learned a little bit about Kilrathi history and how, yes, of course it's a trick. All the Kilrathi know it's a trick, but no one believes them, and so on and so on. So that is basically our setup. And as far as book clubs go, no big space battles, no spaceships. Yep. It is purely. The dramatic arc in the first episode is that Bear really needs to pee. Yep. That's what arcs up the tension because he never finds the bathroom.
Yep, he doesn't.
So that for the entire surrender ceremony, he's trying to get to the bathroom.
Yep.
But so some really embarrassing political stuff in retrospect.
Yes.
But also a super interesting view of the Wing Commander universe where we can tell a compelling story without a space battle, which is kind of a first thing for us. So before we talk about it, we're going to go through and show off some of our references. Can
I ask you one thing before I forget? And I should have mentioned it before because it was one thing I wanted to put in my notes too. Well, because it's one of my Kira, for whatever reason, it tends to, I love that character. Mm-hmm. Do you remember? But do you remember his full name? Like with all of the extensions for Hunter?
Oh, it's Kira Rai Hunter Nar Aussie or something.
But isn't there one more term in there too, I feel like, right? I feel like he has something else. But yeah, it's like Hara.
Yeah.
No, isn't it Hunter's last name or something?
Oh, I don't remember beyond that, honestly.
Yeah, I know. I should have asked you on Discord. Yeah, because it's like when you read it, it's just like it's a great laugh because you're like, well, it's true, but he's a crazy Kilrathi with this weird name. But yeah, sorry, I just wanted to get that before I forgot.
So we'll get some of our outside novel references down before we chat. There is one moment in here where, and they talk about it in the book, but as they're ending the peace signing, Jukaga intentionally quotes General MacArthur, which was his lines at the closing of World War II after the signing of this surrender ceremony. And the actual line is, I don't remember I've got the video of MacArthur saying it, so here we go.
Let us pray that peace be now restored to the world, and that God will preserve it always. These proceedings are closed.
There you go. Yeah. These proceedings now are ended, or we couldn't actually hear that, but
yes.
So
heard it many a times. Many a times. But yep. Yeah, it's funny. The surrender ceremony, how he describes it, is basically almost exactly like the real thing too, with the table. Although there's 2 copies here instead of 3, like they had in World War II.
Now, one of my favorite things that Bill Forstchen does is I call it the sci-fi list. I'm sure TV Tropes has its own name for it, but it is this wonderful pulpy rhetoric device where you introduce this whole swath of human history by having your character with their long family history say, "Oh, we were at these 2 or 3 things that you recognize, and then 1 or 2 from the future." So it's like, "Oh, I was at the Battle of Midway and the Battle of Iwo Jima and the Battle of Cybercat."
I would have said Rockville.
So, yeah. So we have 2 of those in these 2 chapters.
Yep.
The first one is Admiral Tolwyn's reading list. When he's debating with Jukaga, he wants to. Jukaga mentions the Canterbury Tales, which it says it's similar to Bakraka's Tomes of Sivar, and we actually learn that Tolwyn is from near Canterbury, and Tolwyn says, "Oh well, the blood pilgrimage to Sivar is different than the pilgrimage to the tomb of Thomas Becket," and Jukaga says, different people, different cultures.
A lot of anthropology and sociology going on in here.
And then Tolwyn does this like angry army guy list of well, what else have you read? Have you read these? And it's all these. He's trying to call out Jukaga as this mastermind, and the list is Machiavelli, the Prince, Sun Tzu's Art of War, Mao's Little Red Book, General Giap's Military Art of People's War, Clausewitz's On War, and then the Alpha Centauri theorist Vitivius the Younger.
Oh, that sounds like it fits.
Yeah. So. That's actually a pretty neat reading list. I don't know why Tolwyn is throwing shade at Jukaga for these classics of military and political strategy.
I think it's trying to show, like, I'm an educated military man, and I understand the value of a well-rounded education, including our classics. Because it's funny, look, that reading list was like the first seminar I took in grad school when I got my master's.
Oh, by the way, I was so excited to this, I forgot I had pictures of everybody, so...
Where do these people come from?
So here is Chaucer, the Canterbury Tale guy. Yeah, if you're a sci-fi person, you probably know Dan Simmons' Hyperion, which is the sci-fi version of that story. But it's basically a series of short stories that are told to these group of people who are making this pilgrimage to Canterbury. Machiavelli, the Prince, Italian Renaissance politician. Sun Tzu, the Chinese general from roughly 500 BC. There's actually debate over his historicism, but author of The Art of War. Mao Zedong, founder of the People's Republic of China, the Little Red Book. Von Nguyen Gap, of fellow who ran the Vietnam War for North Vietnam.
Yep, North Vietnamese regulars.
Author of Military Art of People's War. Clausewitz, 19th century Prussian general and politician. And I don't have a picture of Alpha Centauri theorist Vitivius the Younger.
Oh, you should have had a question mark.
What's
a question mark?
I should have a question mark.
Ooh, the future doesn't know what Alpha
time.
Centauri the Younger looks than whatever the hell his name is.
But I love that. It's something they do on the original Star Trek all the time. And I love post-history, prehistory in these things because there's 600 years of human history and it makes total sense. And you get just... It's so cool. It's like looking through this sheet with these little holes and, there's this bit of culture and this is what's important. I love it.
Yes, I agree.
So Tolwyn's family of battles. I have a picture for the different battles, too. Yep. There's some point where Tolwyn is listing off all of his family's heroic deeds because Tolwyns have been military men for hundreds of generations and so on. So he starts off with Waterloo, which the defeat of Napoleon at the heart... on the behalf of the Seventh Coalition in I have written down 15.
Yep.
The Somme, the first giant trench war battle in 1916, over 1 million casualties between France, the UK, and Germany, and just a turning point in warfare.
50,000 men in one day.
It's crazy stuff, and
bloodiest day in British history.
And unexpectedly, so much amazing poetry comes out of this. One of my big focuses back in college was Great War poetry. And, this is the battle that broke a generation. And in the process, created some amazing art. But it's the essential trench warfare you see on, every movie. Battle of Britain.
Never in the human endeavor.
Who is supposedly an ancestor of Tolwyn, Churchill.
Yeah.
He's one of those Tolwyns.
Yeah, we get crazy.
So, Battle of Britain, which is 1940, the defense of England from the Luftwaffe.
Yep.
And then the rest of the next one is Minsk, which who knows what that is? What happens between now and...
Yeah,
what war are Tolwyns at Minsk?
War?
Yeah, are they going at war with Russia or?
Yeah,
Minsk, and then the siege of London is the last thing he mentions. And who besieges London between now and the 2600s? I want to know.
Yeah, it gives you one of those, like, is it a third and fourth world war going on?
Yeah.
These things transpire.
And we're going to get all sorts of references, similar references as we go along, and we're going to be able to construct this very rough human history from 2000 to 2600 thanks to this. And I love doing that. That is one of my favorite dumb activities to think about. Mm-hmm. So those are our sci-fi lists.
Yes.
Turn back on our animated buddies. All right, let's, you know what, let's start with our actors, because we have a couple characters in this one who are more important.
Yep.
And I did go around to our panel before the show and ask folks to identify a couple actors for them. And I will bring them up right now. First, I believe we are looking at President Rodham, who is the President of the Confederation. This is Dunderdahl here.
So I chose...
Why did you choose Mr. Feeney here?
Well, to be honest, when you asked me, I started Googling... what was the term I used? I just looked for, like, older professor actors, or so. Because I was thinking about him and Torg, and with Leha's choice, I was like, oh, I could see that. And then William Daniels, Mr. Feeney, popped up, and it was a picture that wasn't Mr. Feeney, and I was like, yeah, I can picture him being the guy sitting across from Tolwyn, respectfully listening to him, and then saying, yeah, that's great, I don't care, this is what I'm doing anyways.
Okay.
He's got that teacher kind of ness.
Now, Leha, this is your choice for President Rodham.
Yeah, I decided to go with Jack Lemmon. I figured that he was a known liberal, which kind of plays into Forstchen's template. But you also wanted somebody who could play a serious role, and I don't want to say comedic, but considering the way Forstchen kind of paints liberals, I figured that might kind of work in the favor of the story. And, Lemon's got a commanding presence. And he played a president once.
Yep.
And I went with...
That's what I Googled.
Older Scott Bakula.
He was on the list. I Googled old presidential actors, and that's what these all came up. There were 30 of them.
Yeah, my thought with the president... And Forstchen, as far as characters go, he's actually fairly respectful of President Rodham. Because he says, oh, yeah, he's this idiot politician and blah, blah, blah. But also he respects the fact that he lost a child in the first Enigma campaign. And he doesn't quite go after him like he does our second character, which is...
Foreign Secretary Jameson.
Foreign Secretary Jameson.
Or Foreign Minister Jameson.
So I went with... I thought... I ran it through my head. I thought of the generic president from Futurama when there's like the debate between President John Jackson and Jack Johnson and they're identical clones of each other. I thought about like... Mitt Romney, the sort of like the handsome president who people like, but maybe there's not that much going on in there. Or, he's going to look at you. Can't you imagine sitting across from Scott Bakula and telling him, oh, you should have done this in Enterprise and blah, 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 blah. And he would be like, yeah, very good. But I'm going to go now.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Anyway, so I went with Bakula. Now our next one is... the more problematic character, which is Foreign Minister Jameson, who is the hurricane eye of Bill Forstchen's 1993 dislike of the Democrats. And I picked the obvious one, which is the one that was certainly in his head, but let's see what Dunderdahl picked first.
You picked like a nice picture of Meryl Streep.
Bad picture of Meryl Streep.
I was thinking of like an older of her, because what came to mind was like when she plays the really bitchy lady in the Devil Wears Prada movie. Well, I picture, because she's very commanding in that, and Jameson is very much holier than thou, and she's willing to weaponize the one tool she has, which is her child and the loss. And that's the other thing, like, everybody gets a loss in this, but she takes it out and, like, stabs people with it, where with President Rodham, it's just, he takes a second and pauses, reflecting on it.
And by the way, we have already had established in the book that there is a traitor in the Foreign Office, and we have been introduced to exactly one character from the Foreign Office.
Who happens to be a very hateable character from the Foreign Office. There is no reason to like her.
So I will, unless you, like many people, believe that not having a war that kills trillions of people is a good thing.
Sure.
But let's see what Leha chose. And I will only ask Leha, why do you hate the chief?
Oh, no. Why do you hate the chief? Yeah.
Everybody loves Lily Thigpen. The reason I chose her is not because of where in the world is Carmen Sandiego. I need to make that clear. But she played a character in a movie called Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman, and she is the biggest, meanest.
Okay, I can see that. I know what you mean now.
I saw that movie last month, so yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Not the leader of the PTA board, but she's just like this really mean, harsh mother who runs afoul of the of Morgan Freeman, and she plays it to a T. And Jameson kind of gives off that holier than thou, looking down the nose type, and she played that to a T in that film. And this is it's always been in my head ever since I first read this book.
I'm going to go to mine. I want to again stress that this is not me saying that I hate this person.
Disclaimer.
Or that I love this person. This is me saying that when you read this book in 1993, you knew that this was the person that was in Bill Forston's head. You know.
Well, technically, I guess if it's the person I'm thinking of, technically she is she's appeared in programs.
Yeah, anyway, it's 1993 Hillary Clinton.
That's correct.
Which... this was who Bill was. Bill Forston was furious about. Bill. There was all this uproar. He was trying to do a healthcare system, and she wasn't an elected official, and everyone was angry, and it's all stupid history. Yeah. But this is what was in his head. That's why it's President Rodham, and
Hillary Rodham Clinton.
So I wanted the historical reference of there is 1993 Hillary Clinton.
Yes. There's not many bones about that.
Next up, we have Dr. Torg.
Yes.
Then this is your choice for Dr. Torg.
So my first thought when I was like, who's the biggest jerk professor in movies that like immediately came to mind? And
I know the biggest jerk professor I know.
Yeah. I will also vouch for Professor. There are Dr. Torgs in the world, but there are also me's in the world as well. But I went with I forgot what the hell his actual name is though. I forget.
Good job.
It's the guy who plays the professor in Back to School. The guy who drives the little snooty like convertible and he's always trying to go after Thornton Mellon. I should scroll up and look real fast. You can go to Leha's. I'll find it.
All right, Leha, explain what is going on here with his robot.
I meant this is a joke. I didn't want you to put it in the.
Well, it's in the thing now, so you better.
Well, looks like Dr. Torg, all right.
I could not come up with an actor for Torg. I scratched my head over it. It's because it's such a broad, cliche character. There was nobody I could think of that fits, but the name of Torg is also the robot in Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, so why not?
Oh, direct reference. Excellent.
So I went with Newman.
Oh, Newman.
Here is somebody who you are allowed to hate, and you crave that moment when the other characters in any production get their comeuppance over him. So it just seemed appropriate to me.
Yeah, I could see him like being Torg's though like less successful brother, like in Jurassic Park. Like I can code. The guy I was saying, Paxton Whitehead. That sounds like a Dr. Torgish name.
Oh, that's bad.
Paxton Whitehead is the gentleman from Back to School who,
So those are our actor choices. Bring back the animated buddies. So let's talk about Fleet Action Chapters 2 and 3. And the first question I have on the list of focus questions I came up with is, what the hell, you guys? Let's go around the channel.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way else to slice this, but from the second you start Chapter 2, the politics are coming through because it's right there trying to find a bathroom, running into the reporters, and it's like it's almost like I'm not sure if there's a trope in the civilian military competition that he does not go after.
Yeah.
I mean, and he hits every single one in all of the different type of environments, from the reporters, getting his name wrong, asking, right? And then the bad movie, which you're talking about.
It's one of these things, and I don't know if there's a term for it, but it's where an author writes an argument that they agree with one side of, and it's stilted towards that.
Yes.
Which was brilliant in 2000 BC when Sophocles was doing it. It's not so much here.
Yes, definitely not. And And it doesn't stop though. No, even when we change scenes, the argument, like the issue is still there. It's just he slightly changes the characters who are doing it. I mean, even when
it's so much worse when you get the sociologist.
Yeah, because it's like all of us have seen that argument on Twitter or on Facebook where it's, oh, you think you're smarter than me. I build stuff for... It's that same argument over and over again.
And I should stress, it's never an argument I've heard from a service person. You hear, they're off fighting for our freedoms, you have to respect that. You get that all the time. I have never had anybody say to me, well, I'm right because I was in the army. This is such an academic argument. This
is one of the ones you see. I mean, I've had this conversation before, seen this conversation at conferences, and I've had students in the classroom try to argue this with each other when they were too young to fully grasp a lot of the concepts, is usually it. But yeah, it's they just with the what the hell. I mean, it's from the first page until the last. I mean, even to the last sentence, the politics are just inescapable. But he does manage to weave an interesting bunch of scenes around it.
There is very good stuff in there beyond the politics.
Yeah,
the Kira stuff especially.
I love Kira.
Right in the middle of this setup debate for why. And I have to go stress this again. It's stuff like, you military guys are just ignorant brutes. And then a particular soldier comes back like, actually, I have the equivalent of 6 years of engineering school and then 4 years of graduate program.
So he's a practical PhD. As opposed to your useless piece of paper about sociology.
So it just goes on. But Kira comes out and we learn more about the history of the Kilrathi Empire than we do ever. And we learn little Kilrathi words and
that's one thing I found kind of a little bit goofy though at times, because it's like, here's Kira to explain the Kilrathi.
Well,
then it's Dr. Torg to explain the divide.
It's neat at the same time though that we essentially the Ellen Guan pickup truck came off and offloaded the characters from because they're not going to be used anymore. And now they belong to these novels. And they all just come in at the peace signing. I didn't even mention it this time, but we see Rikik, the head of the Ferekins, who was a child in Freedom Flight, refuses to agree to the armistice, and she takes the Ferek out of the Confederation. It's all sorts of cool stuff like that wrapped up in here.
Should we go to... I guess I should do... So, Leha's thoughts. I'll call them out now so they don't know. So they know.
Okay.
And then I'll call Chris, and who else is in there too?
Well, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Chapter 2 starts off with him hating the press, and then it goes on to him hating mass media, and then it goes on to him hating politicians, and it goes down the line. And it's the thing that really sticks out to me. And you mentioned, Kira walking in, but it is very much not an us versus them, but it's an experience versus theory kind of thing, where it's the politicians, you weren't on the front line.
Yeah, you weren't there, man.
Or you didn't experience this.
Yeah.
The only thing I could walk away with is I wonder if Bill Forstchen didn't have it out for somebody that wasn't an actual sociology major at his university job, and he was just kind of like, let me stick the screws to him in my book.
Oh, I bet, or some bad reviewer or something.
To be perfectly honest, the only thing worse would be, I'm a professor of communications or something like that.
Yes.
That said, though, the one thing he does get right, and I say this from my own experiences, I sound like a Bill Forstchen character now, is that there are a great deal of people in academia as broadly as Torg because they are exactly like that.
Yep. Yeah, you recognize that for sure. This is not completely wrong. It's over the top how it's argued and how one side is amazing and the other is awful. But it's not totally wrong. There are definitely outliers on both sides.
Certainly.
And we see that all the time. And that's why these arguments go on for so long, because anyone in the world can say, well, look how ridiculous this guy is. He says everybody should... I don't know. I don't even want to theorize. But, there are these outliers at both ends of the spectrum that everybody points to, and it gets us nowhere. And that's what you see here.
And I as a professor myself, who spent a lot of years in the classroom, you definitely see this. You will see, especially in different majors sometimes, the Dr. Torgs who are, multicultural diversity, which isn't even a real thing. It's just a bunch of words he shoved together that don't actually mean what he thinks they mean. But
yeah, that's so frustrating here, and that's what bothers me about this. You could have this without going so far, because we hear, he started the Karathi Friendship Committee, and they're going to have art exchanges.
The
and
what?
There's Karathi dancers, and like that is so over the top for 3 weeks after the generational war that has killed 4 trillion humans.
Especially the laugh line he goes in there, right, with the... And 3 people all in unison said the what? It's like, Bill slapstick.
This is one of those things that everyone on the internet is such a dumb asshole about all the time. It's like, hey, you want people to have rights? You're such an idiot. Like, okay, yes, people should have rights, and also they shouldn't be obnoxious. Both things are true. One of them is not a placeholder for this person is wrong.
I'm sorry, you can't advance through the maze. You have chosen 2 options that do not work.
So I do have a less political question, which is, how are these...
We should make sure to ask Chris, too.
Oh, Chris, I'm sorry.
No, it's hard because everybody's quiet, so it's weird because everybody... I have to say, can I say, you're being great about muting yourselves. Like, clicking on off. Excellent job this week, gentlemen.
Yeah, I think we've probably alienated all the doctors of sociology and communication in our audience. So
hey, I have a BA in anthropology, so I'll pretend I'm holding the fort for us. I got a BA in anthro.
Yeah, I think you guys, everything has been said is spot on. This is the chapter where I really love the prologue in Fleet Action. All the talk about the carriers and the fleet action, fleet actions. Is awesome, and this is just like the low point canyon of the intro kind of. So lots of eye rolling. I just got so annoyed at how many times Fortune uses the word bristled. Everybody's just constantly bristling.
And I would compare this novel to something like The Forever War, which is about this the same idea of these soldiers returning to Earth after this space war, and the civilization there is not what they understand anymore. But it's just so aggressively, we're the right ones. It's not, this is different and these people don't understand and can't understand. It's we're right and you're wrong. And you could have... my hat came off.
Your crown.
My crown came off. My Archie Burger crown. Yeah, so you could do this exact same thing, but have it be reasonable.
Yep.
It would be so much more interesting, because we have this little intro where these guys are talking about, we can't find employment, this is hard. That would be so much more interesting than this immediately jumping into this debate about how the civilians who they've spent 20 years trying to defend are wrong. And... We got a little bit of pushback from the lady who was interested in Bear. She's like, no, Lisa. People back home don't think about this. It's just these college professors. Okay.
And then we have Elaine, who's the silent majority. Right?
But
I'm just here for work.
I would love to see the Wing Commander story of these soldiers returning to Earth after this 30-year war and seeing that it's not the planet they had in their head as they were defending. That's a fascinating story.
Yeah.
But it's not this one.
No.
So my first big question is, how are these chapters impacted by the fact that we already know what's really going on? We are going into this not with, these guys might be right, maybe it is peace. Mm-hmm. We know it's not. How does that change how this dynamic works? Because to me, it makes it much worse. It's shooting fish in a barrel. Not only are our characters bold and gallant and true and right, but they are also... correct. There will be comeuppance for these people, and it's such.
It seems like it would be so much of a better story from just like any junior writer person to keep this big reveal kind of in reserve and then hit you with it halfway through.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm trying to think as a kid, and I'm going to say it. I just clearly was not smart enough to think it. I was just like, I want to read about this. I want more. Not realizing I already know what's basically going to happen, but you don't have enough, wisdom and to understand all the context around there. So you process it differently. Where now I was like, oh my god, this is right off the bat we're teed up and have nowhere to run to.
And it's such a mean-spirited jerk-off kind of a thing to say, hey, this guy isn't just wrong and fat and an idiot and bad and he has a stupid college degree. He is also going to get blown up with nuclear weapons. Ha sucker. Yeah. That's not what... Nobody is off in Afghanistan right now thinking, man, those people I hate back in America, I just wish somebody would nuke them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's like that weird corner of the internet now that has kind of this type stuff. Yeah.
So, in that same vein, there is one reveal, and we'll go ahead and spoil it because everyone has read Fleet Action, but there is one reveal that we're kind of keeping, which is, we see at Admiral Tolwyn's court-martial, we're still playing that totally straight. His sword is broken, Bambridge is sad, it seems like Tolwyn has been forced out of the military. Mm-hmm. And my question is that to Death of Superman? Because there's not a reveal, obviously. Obviously, Admiral Tolwyn is not going to be cashiered.
Yeah.
And that is just something we know structurally. He's going to be in the next game, and he'll still be an admiral.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing he's kind of keeping as a reveal, and it's not, is what I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay. If you guys like to go, I'm thinking.
Interesting to see how, over the next few chapters, getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but it is interesting to see how that part of the story unfolds, as the rest of the story probably should have. But
yeah.
I don't mind it as much.
I've got a couple of notes I wanted to point out. We get O'Brien's ghost from the previous novel speaking to one of the reporters who gets Bondurevsky's name wrong.
Yep, right off the bat.
By the way, I was kind of wondering what folks' thoughts on the relationship between the media and the military, and the media and press and the military. Because I think they're, at least in that battle where, the guy was a reporter back on Earth, you see that in reality. You think of, and I think Leha mentioned this, General Sherman, with, he hated reporters and he wanted to have them arrested as spies.
Oh, yeah.
So that feels very real, and that feels like it would come from someone who was a Civil War historian, who would have that in his mind.
Cough, cough.
But then we have these other two relationships that are just a little bit odder. It's military and the government, where everyone in this military seems to be absolutely disdainful of the government. And how I have not been in the military. How realistic is that?
I would say that's fairly realistic. I mean, he takes it to the extreme with, we know everything. We're telling you every decision you're making is wrong. I mean, like any big organization, right? You always think you kind of know better because you have the frontline experience and stuff like that, and he's taking it a step beyond.
I guess my better way to put it was, is there more disdain for the civilian government through the armed forces, or is it just the same constant level of disdain for the government that pretty much everyone has all the time?
I would say, for the most part, it is the latter, but if these are gentlemen or women who are stationed on some mountaintop in Afghanistan who don't get regular supplies and they're wondering what the hell they're doing out there as they're, burning their waste in big 55 gallons, right, in this horrible situation, they would probably why the hell are we here? This is no reason. Or a unit that suffers heavy losses, that tends to be
by the way, I would like to say I don't want us all to be Dr. Forstchens. I would love to hear from someone who is actually in the military. How did you feel while you were deployed about your government? Let us know. Because that would be it. I would love to hear all sides of this. And I'm not saying that this is bad because I disagree with Forstchen's politics 100% of the time. I'm saying it's bad because it's so stacked one-sidedly. And it could be the opposite. It could be this liberal, peace-loving military guy who's like, oh, it's great that the war is over, and you're all idiots for wanting to continue it. You could write it either way. I don't want to think of it as an endorsement of, hey, this kind of person is bad. It's
just, these extremes are bad on both of them, It's just, it's always kind of too far. But,
So third relationship I wanted to ask about in our relationship triangle is, and that struck me as interesting here, the military and the enemy. Because we have, as part of this whole performative thing, is Kira comes in and all the pilots are happy to drink with him because he's the respected enemy.
Yeah.
And they understand each other. They're military men. And, even though they're from different species, they have the same heart. And I there have certainly been wars where you think of that as the case. You read about, days of chivalry and even stuff like World War I with the Christmas truce, and it seems like it gets to be more of an abstraction as you go in time. And then you always hear about, this guy went back to Japan and made peace with the family of the person he killed. That you get that sort of story. It was an episode of King of the Hill. But is it so universal?
Sort of. I mean, because when you said the first thing that kind of popped to mind of a wartime situation is there's a famous story of a B-17 that goes on a raid over Germany, loses 2 of its engines, has a lot of people wounded, and eventually an ME-109 pulls up beside it, and, the pilot, he can see as he flies up, none of the guns are manned, right? They're all drooping low, so it's obvious that nobody's at them. And when he flies up beside it, he sees that there are wounded, holes in the aircraft everywhere, and he decides instead to escort it to the channel, where the whole idea is to prevent other Germans from attacking it. And then when it gets to the channel, he wiggles his wings and turns back. And then later in the war, later after the war, those guys all met up and kind of reminisced about that moment. But this is certainly, I would say, I have seen this myself at events with combatants from the other sides, where there's always this kind of gauging each other, because you don't want to give any ground to your former enemy, and then there's like a moment when it all breaks away, and next they are inseparable friends because they were in the same shit together. They were people were at the Somme. Yeah, you were there, man. And so that's why, like, when they ask about Kira, the military guy says, the guys with the fleet, they fought well. The Imperial Legions, well, they're a different story. And of course, Kira puffs up saying, yes, I was with the fleet. And that's where you get the great line, because I even wrote it down, where it goes, smart technical, blah, blah. Torg ends with the burn. I forget what the burn, the stupid burn. But then the pilot, or the military veteran goes, I'll have a drink with Kira, but what's weird is that I'm going to die for you. As Torg is telling him that he's an idiot, right? But yeah, those type things I think are kind of more common. It's like with that, I had a student ask me in an email just yesterday about a gentleman named Henry Tandy, who was a First World War veteran who had the opportunity to kill Hitler on the battlefield, but because Hitler was wounded, he didn't want to kill a wounded man. So you can have all types of things.
When we're
a couple of parts of it where, like, it's hard to imagine the shaking hands part. It's a human and a Karathi are so different. I mean, imagine this giant claw paw. I just can't imagine dudes walking up and patting them on the back and shaking hands. It just seems hard. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that kind of gets broken. And like what allows that kind of whole interaction is, right, we have Hunter being Hunter. And that's what I actually think that's one of the really great things that Forstian does, is that you don't really feel like right when Hunter shows up, and if you read Freedom Flight, you're like, oh, I know you. And he's immediately starting to brag. He's doing all his Hunter things. And then, right, oh God, it's Kira. Which is... And then everybody shows up, and it's like we get our little intros, and Kira has his great moments. I wanted Loaf to do a triple shot of single malt scotch, but we didn't have any handy, right?
And by the way, mentioning these Hunter again, it's very odd that Hunter is Admiral Tolwyn's representative at the peace, because they, as far as we know, they have never interacted in any way. Yeah. It really should be Colonel Blair.
Yeah, and what's even weirder is that it's the two of them and Forstian makes mention of, yes, his regular staff members were furious that they weren't here, and instead, we have, right, and the thing is, Tolwyn, because at one point, I think I wrote it down, that he describes them possessively. Yeah, Tolwyn's officers. Yeah. And it's like, I'm sorry, I think they're Admiral Bainbridge's officers, because he seems to be the senior front commander.
Yeah, it just seems odd that Tolwyn took maybe one of his squadron commanders instead of wing commander. Yeah,
because I actually tried to look it up at the Japanese surrender ceremony. If Mitcher brought Jimmy Thatch or Alex Varushu, and it's like, no, if you were like that worked as the brass had spots, and if you were on ship and weren't on duty, and you could find a way to see it from where you could climb to, you were in.
And then again, we learn in the start of the book that Hunter is a pilot in the Concordia now, a broadsword pilot. And then he's on the Tarawa when it's being decommissioned. So,
but he's in his civvies at that point, though, right?
Yeah, he's just hanging out at the fleet yard.
Yes.
But not to rag on this entirely, there are some moments of... we talk about these moments that introduce the Karathi culture and all this good stuff, but there are some... in addition to the really stilted conversations, there's a moment I pulled out, which is one of my favorite moments in a Wing Commander book. My absolute favorite is from Freedom Flight, and we'll get to that eventually. Mm-hmm. But there's this passage where they've just signed the surrender ceremony, and our pilots are just looking out at this empty deck, and I'll read it here. They passed down a long corridor lined with Marine security guards and stepped into an open cavernous hall which served as the hangar bay for this deep space base. The vacuum of space on the other side kept out by the magnetic airfield. How many times have I looked out a bay like this, he thought. This is Hunter. Sitting in my fighter, Sitting in my fighter, strapped in and waiting for the launch signal. The mere thought of it set his heart racing again. Even though he was glad the fighting had stopped, he knew he'd miss it. The adrenaline rush of launching. The pure joy of flying the most powerful fighter craft ever built. If this piece really did hold, all of that was finished. It was a strange feeling of relief and regret all at once. Gonna miss it, Hunter said softly, standing by Jason's side. I love that, and you could take that and make such a more interesting book, because just the idea that there is some recognition that they do like to fight, that they're warriors. They have put this into it, and we don't explore that at all anymore, but there's this one moment where it just seems really beautiful and interesting and compelling on both sides. They do want the piece to work, but they also recognize that there is this rush of being a fighter pilot, and you could absolutely take that to what do you do when you're not a fighter pilot anymore?
You become an airline pilot now.
That touches on something that I wanted to bring up, but I wasn't entirely sure to, because it when I thought more and more about it, it kind of set the scene on its ear, and it's basically Forstchen putting a whole bunch of veterans having nothing else to do but drink in a bar.
Yeah, on their government checks.
Yeah. And I thought that was kind of like, I understand, there is a certain stereotype, for lack of a better word, but at the same time, that did kind of seem in bad taste. Mm-hmm. Especially, but it runs at the same time. What do you do with yourself when that's your calling?
Yeah. Which is a much more interesting book again.
Yeah. Well, it's also these guys they're in that transition, right? Because they've been let out. They have 100 credits for, isn't it? Is it
it's 100 a week for 40 weeks or
something? Yeah, which is, I wonder where that's from, huh? 40 acres and a mule, anybody? But what the hell was I just thinking with that? I don't even remember. I lost my train of thought.
So one thing I would like to point out that I only realized now, here's a quote from, we're talking about timeline instead of politics or anything like that. The civilian population is war-weary, Tolwyn, and after 32 years of fighting, I think we've had enough, and for that matter, the Karathi have had enough as well. There's always been this debate as to when fleet action happens, and the 2660s get a little bit messed up, because we established at one point, I think it's with Karathi Saga or with Armada, that Wing Commander 2 takes 3 years. It starts in 2665, like it says in the game, but it ends in 2667. And I had never put 2 and 2 together and realized that Forstchen is thinking this happens 1 year after Wing Commander 2. He thinks Wing Commander 2 is 2665, so he is thinking this is 2666. 32 years of fighting, 32 years since 2654. He's absolutely right there, and looking at the galleys of False Colors, which I recently got, he uses, and it's actually in the published book too, he says when Tolwyn took the fleet to Landreg in 66. So he is operating under the assumption for this and all future novels that fleet action takes place in 2666.
Probably.
But eventually we're going to establish, I guess in a year in Voices of War, that it's 2668, which condenses the timeline at the other end. But that explains so much more about the novels and the distances of times and why it seems like there's more time between this and False Colors, why it seems like there's more time between this and Wing Commander 3 novel and Wing Commander 4 novel. Yeah. I also wanted to point out the money stuff.
And I added a little bit at the end for you for the...
thank you.
So compare it to real world too for the newest.
So we have 2 points in this, once during the surrender ceremony and once with the Torg argument, which is the debate is basically the civilian person saying, you know how expensive this war is, and the military guy goes, I think I do. And
it's a different cost.
Then it costs X million dollars, and I was thinking about the cost in lives, and that's a stupid argument, and I hate it, and it's bad.
And it's an argument that's made all the time. All the time.
But at the same time, we get some weird numbers. First of all, noting that this book uses dollars instead of credits. Nobody caught that. This and Armada both use dollars instead of credits. Everything else in Wing Commander credits, but dollars here. And we are told repeatedly that it costs $8 trillion a year to run the war, and there is a $40 trillion deficit in the Confederation. And then
war we're fighting.
We also hear that a carrier costs $73 billion, and a complement of fighters is $10 billion, and that they've lost $1.5 trillion worth of carriers and fighters over the years. I did the math. That's 18 carriers and their complements in the last 3 years. But
a bad bunch of years.
This is another one of these things where sci-fi people try to imagine the future, but they don't go far enough at all.
Yeah.
The current U.S. net deficit is $22 trillion.
Yeah.
We have, one half of the Kilrathi War on credit so far, apparently.
Go us.
Well, and it doesn't even, the math is not even if it's not internally consistent, because, as Dungeon just kind of said, if it costs $8 trillion a year, you've only got the equivalent of 5 years of debt in this 30-something year war.
We're taxing enough to pay it off.
They're smart on the Confederation is better on their taxation. They've got the World War II model, I guess.
And Dundral has added the price of actual carriers, which is
that's our newest, the Gerald Ford.
Newest carrier, $13 billion for a ship.
Yep.
Or $12.998 billion. You put.
That's the specific amount. That's the current. The current value, because it keeps going up.
Yeah, and $37.3 billion for the total program, which half the price of a Confederation. That one kind of I could see. $73 billion for a future space carrier.
That one definitely kind of fit in there. Yeah, I thought that that was the only one that seemed okay. The other numbers, because they just refuse to take it one magnitude higher. Because I feel like if you take it beyond that one magnitude, then it becomes ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Like, $30 trillion or 300 trillion. It's like, what? And it breaks that. It's like there's a fine line of believability in there somewhere.
But it's one of those things. We, in our one country out of 300, have $22 trillion in debt right now. The Confederation is several thousand planets.
Yeah, but we're really good with money. Mm-hmm. Congratulations, Confederation.
Got a couple of ship references in here I'd like to run through fast. The first, almost no ships mentioned at all in here. Yep. We see the Tarawa at one point. We mentioned that all their Reapers and Ferrets and Sabers are on the dock. We hear about a Kilrathi carrier in passing. But as they're looking for work, we hear about a Victory-class transport, which I feel like has to be a reference to one of these, a Victory ship. You want to tell us what that is?
Yes. So a Victory ship is the improved version of a Liberty ship. So it has better engines. It's slightly larger. But otherwise, it's very, very similar to a Liberty ship. So we use these. They produced just about over 500 of them during the war, and they would be used in faster convoys. So the Liberty ships tended to go a bit slower, maybe 14, 15 knots. These could push a little bit faster. The idea is that they can essentially outrun the U-boats, because the U-boats traveling underwater can't go faster than 6 or 7 knots, and they'll going full out will kill their batteries. So this allows the Allies to bring troops and supplies more safely to Europe as well as into the Pacific. Yeah. We actually didn't lose any, too, I noticed.
Which is super, and it's interesting here because this is, the war has ended and these ships are now civilian and they're looking for crews and they're willing to pay the lowest amount of money possible, and our veterans are fighting to get one.
Fighting real low, yeah.
The other one is when we're talking about the locations of their ships that are being taken out of service, mothballed. It's Earth, Sirius, which is going to be important. That's actually a very subtle hint at something that will be important later in the book. And the third is, quote, Carnovian Station, spelled Carnovan. And that has to be trying to be a reference to Carnarvon Station in Wing Commander 2, which again is odd because the backstory for Carnarvon Station is that it has 4 fighter pilots assigned to it. It's a research base.
And why is it suddenly getting all these mothballed shit? I guess they got a lot of empty space to fill.
And one thing we hear about, they screw up the name of the station. It seems like they screw up the name of the station every time it's mentioned. It's Carnovian. It's spelled like 5 different ways across the Wing Commander canon. But I looked this up, and the actual Welsh word does not have a specific specific
loose.
spelling. It's because it's considered CARNARFON today. That's the current version.
Okay.
But there's all sorts of different versions because moving Welsh into English is hard and weird. But so my point is, it's a nice shout out to Wing Commander 2, as odd as it is.
Okay, speaking of misspellings, did everyone catch how Admiral Noragami was spelt correctly,
Yes.
and then a sentence later it was misspelt twice?
Yes, Noragami.
Where I was like, how can you even, like, it has to be in view when you're typing it, and he screws that one up. I'm like, wow, you've got to be joking right off the bat with that one. Yeah.
Another one that comes up in here is Hunter is repeatedly called Ian Hunter.
Yes.
This is something that this book, and by the way, he does eventually get called Ian St. John later in the book. Well, that'll be a big moment. But it seems like the author thinks his name is Ian Hunter. And that happens in the movie, too. He's Lieutenant Hunter. Like, everybody forgets his last name, which is St. John.
Yes.
But I just noticed that and pulled it out.
Yeah, and Matt in the chat earlier when we asked about it was Kira Ra Hunter Narasi.
Okay.
So they even carry it's not St. John there, too.
And that's another thing. The Kirathi, the clan versus Harai, the way Kirha describes it, it sounds like he's saying they're the same thing. But in the previous book, they were different.
Yeah.
And we kind of
Blur all that.
Yeah. So Harai, and there is some distinguishing thing, but we don't know what it is. I've always wondered about his Windward, what the reference there is. There's no reference. Looking through the next chapter, it's just the name of Tolwyn's estate.
Yeah, it's just like, one of those things.
It's his, God, what was that terrible James Bond movie recently where it was like, the Bond estate.
Skyfall.
Skyfall, yes. So that's his version of Skyfall is Windward.
Yes, like any rich person is. Oh, I'm sure one day the Stream House will have a name like that, right? We'll call it Carnivoron Station. And everybody will spell it differently on maps so no one can get there.
So that's
dreams.
Another good one, and I remember everybody when we were teenagers thinking this was exciting. The Vacuum Breathers Club.
Yes.
Which is totally a nod to the Happy Bottom Riding Club, where all the test pilots hung out in the 50s.
At Edwards?
Yeah, at Edwards, or Maroc at the time.
Yeah.
But in Wing Commander, it's this idea, it's this pilots club on the moon, and all these heroic veteran pilots, everybody has a mug with their name on it. I had a mug with my name on it, but I sent it away to be cleaned after using it in the promo.
That's with the bad soda, that's right.
And when the pilot is killed in action, the mug is the handle is gilded and it's put on the wall, much like the Dula's Rails things you were showing earlier.
Yeah. Do you say there's a few things I wanted to? Oh, I'll stop that. There was a few things I wanted to mention, which I mentioned earlier on Discord because when I read it as a kid, I never thought about it, but I guess now having grown up and learned more about the awards, is that he gives Tolwyn's family not too many, but an insulting number of Victoria Crosses, and I hate saying that. Because he gives his family six of them in 800 years. I just want to note that the Victoria Cross is a decade older than the Congressional Medal of Honor, and where the Congressional Medal of Honor has 3,500 recipients, the Victoria Cross has 1,300. So this is something the British do not simply hand out. And to say that a family has 6 of them, even in 800 years, it's like 2, you're pushing it. 6, it's like, what are you doing? Like, it's like 6, imagine 6 medals of honor in a single family, and even in that same time span.
Well, I'm interested to look into this after this, because Tolwyn, his family is to some degree royalty, and you wonder if it's
uber British family.
He's supposedly related to Churchill, and they have this Marshall family that goes back to the 14th century or something. So, it may be a case of this is every Windsor whoever got this award counts or something.
Yeah, but the thing is, I know what you mean. That this award though is it's the one they don't do that with. Yeah. That's what makes it so. And I remember last night when I was reading it, I just remember stopping, being like 6, like 6. Like, give them a legion. Like, give them one below that. It still has the exact same impact.
Well, they're there at the Siege of London and Minsk.
Yes, apparently.
Who knows what's going to happen?
You know what?
There.
Maybe I'm totally wrong, and the British suddenly become a little bit more liberal with how they award them.
Post-Brexit.
Right? Yes, post-Brexit. Yes, and I just want to say that Kira is just one of my favorite novel characters because you get to know him in Freedom Flight. He's like this. He's a lovable, goofy warrior. He tries, to fit in. Here, he's a little bit more, I think, say well-spoken than he is in Freedom Flight. Since he's like a Kilrathi scholar all of a sudden with all this information.
We should have done an actor for him because he's early Worf. He's Marsala from Exo Squad. He's definitely a trope.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, he's great. He's a giant Kilrathi, so of course we have our laugh lines with what's his drink of choice. Well, we know from before it's a single triple malt Scotch, which is quite the drink. That'll put hair on your ass.
And the sheer fun of Kira, and we'll see him for a second in the text, the sheer fun is
always a blast.
Absolutely turned pitch black a couple novels from now when we find out what happens right after this.
And that's so. I remember when in False Colors, it's like
genuinely
so sad.
upsetting.
Yeah, because you love him in this. You're enamored with the relationship with him and Hunter because you think back to Freedom Flight and how now, right? Because Kira hasn't seen Hunter in, a decade? Mm-hmm. And then Kira gets out of POW camp, somehow gets a ride to the moon, and walks right into the bar and finds Hunter, what seems like in a fairly straightforward search. And then makes friends with everybody except, and even Dr. Torg has Kira in front of him, and he kind of always just ignores what he's saying. That's
because those dumb college professors, they don't listen to real life.
Yeah, like you're just another dumb warrior or Fleety on the other side. But yeah, that. And then there's actually something, I don't know if anybody else noted, which I don't know if this is a Force-Gen screw-up or if it's him forgetting what Tolwyn does. But at one point, when Tolwyn is talking with Jukaga and Tukarg, the carrier captain, they mentioned that Tolwyn led the first wave at Vuker. And I wasn't sure if that meant if the first wave of strike planes, is he the first wave of our fleet that jumps in there, or what? But I remember that jumped out at me a lot.
Yeah, definitely not the strike plane. So
must be. So yeah, I don't know if Fortune's forgotten what Tolwyn does.
It's another one of those things where Tolwyn gets all the credit and Banbridge gets none.
Yeah, and Banbridge, that's the other thing. Banbridge at the court-martial. You're telling me there's no other senior admirals that could have presided over that in the Confederation? It had to just be his.
I thought about that, but then I realized it has to be Banbridge because it's a setup. If you had a regular judge or somebody who is not in on this plan, they could theoretically let Tolwyn off.
That's true, but you could have had like Noragami or somebody, right? Because the Joint Chiefs are all in on it.
Not that there's ever any recent human history of someone obviously being guilty for something and the government not doing anything about it. That would never really happen.
There's a high standard for human ability in our world. That's all. Yes.
Anyways.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, Kira is just like,
he's wonderful. Yeah, and such a fresh breath air that he elevates this the minute he comes in.
Yeah, and then and when he is doing exposition, it's in no way bothersome. You're not like, oh, here we go, because the way he explains things, like I love the Utara arrive and those idiots, we massacred them after they gave us technology. Why isn't anyone else laughing with me? Like that's such a great scene.
It is. It's a wonderful.
I love him in there. Yeah, and it's him like you picture him leaning against the bar. You can't figure out how to sit down. It really is a great breath of fresh air, like you said. Yeah. But then we have Torg show up and we get the silly debates of back and forth, the cost, the kids. Like I try to write down the arguments too, where it's like the money versus the people. It's a conspiracy by the military for power and money. The longer, the better, it goes on. Jukaga told me the same thing, and clearly the Kilrathi have the same military-industrial complex that is trying to get power and money. Are you kidding me right now?
Well, Chris or Lehigh,
what do you guys
any think? Comments to throw in here?
No.
I'm trying to. Let's see what else my notes have here. Yeah, and
I'm anxious to get to the. I mean, there's lots of stuff to look forward to in the book. This is I mean, these 2 chapters, you just gotta get through them, and then I'm really anxious to get to Tolwyn's adventure, and there's a lot of good stuff here coming up in the middle of the book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll go ahead and say right here, next time, it's not next week, but the week after, we'll be reading chapters 4 and 5, so get ready for that.
Yeah. And then, actually, this is something I noticed too, in one of the arguments where he reverses it. So he takes what normally, this is not something a professor would be saying, but this would be, I have certainly had people yell at something like this at me, where it's like, get off the taxpayer's back, get a real job, and get a life. Because, right, what do you do that adds to the economy? And that's Torg saying that to the veterans in their own bar. Like, he's got to be one of the
such a jerk
dumbasses of all times.
Yeah, and that's the whole problem with that argument. You can't. It seems so disingenuous to create this character.
Yeah, because it's like everything. Like, oh, you're not behind your government? Actually, no, I'm in front of it. It's like literally he trolled through Twitter and Facebook posts from like the last 2 years, and this is exactly it. I think we have to just mention that Torg, his comeuppance, right, is that he goes too far and says Tolwyn should be executed as a traitor.
Yeah, that does not seem so much for the tolerant left.
Yeah, and of course he gets kicked out of the bar, and he keeps right. It's once he's out of, then he starts yakking back to his group again, being the little minstrel. Yeah.
By the way, I'd like to confess to causing continuity or about Torg. I tried to put Torg in Star Soldier as one of the quotes for Maniac's book, one of the pull quotes.
Yep.
And I thought it was funny to make him like a pro-war person then. I named him Silas Torg after my brother.
You mean Dr. Burroughs?
Dr. Burroughs. But I realize now in Fleet Action he's actually named Dave.
Yes, that's right.
Dave Torg. So it's a different Torg. My dad's name is Dave, so maybe he had a kid named Silas, and that kid loves the military. So.
He's rebelling against his father. Mm-hmm. That's, because you told me that earlier when we were preparing for the promo, and I was like, do I have a first name? And you're like, yeah, it's Dave. It's like, oh, that's really underwhelming.
It is underwhelming. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Any idea what Torg could be? That's such an unusual name.
It is. And, so many of the people in these books are people Fortune knows, and I know he has confessed to giving the bad guys novels, bad reviewers, and people he doesn't like's names, so I think it must be just someone he knows. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One thing, we also get 2 new places. The Landreich and then the Grosvenor colonies.
Oh, yes. The first mention of the Landreich, only mention of the Grosvenor colonies.
Yes.
Which I know it's one of those metro stops on the Red Line or Orange Line or something.
Oh, really?
Grosvenor.
Grosvenor. Yeah. Oh, that's right. I have seen that. Oh, nice. And I think, unless the court-martial... now we kind of talked about the court-martial, the cashiering. I tried to look anything up about the broken sword being picked up, and there's not a whole lot of a discussion about that.
It's much more Age of Sail than anything modern.
Yeah, although I did learn that actually when the Marine rips off, that's not accurate, because they actually pre-break everything, what they say. Like the sword gets a little break in it to help it snap. All of the rank insignias, all the strings are cut, so they just rip right off and stuff like that.
And by the way, when that happens, he's absolutely thinking of Starship Troopers again, because there is a scene like that in Starship Troopers where it's so, honor of the military, and even though this person betrayed us, we treat him as a member until we rip off his... Bill Fortune, as we noticed 2 weeks ago, he read Starship Troopers.
And probably had it open while writing this book.
So yeah, and any final thoughts, and we'll sign up for. Otherwise, we'll sign up for book club. I should also mention that one of our noble book clubbers was not feeling up to it tonight, and we surely miss him, Trelane. So, thinking good thoughts about you. We love you, man.
You missed the happy birthday. Yeah. You just didn't want to sing. It was all about
totally
singing. He told me off to the side. His singing voice wasn't in it today.
And by the way, I've added you all to.
My thought is I do kind of like the we just touched on it briefly, but I do kind of like the process by which they decommission the ships.
The cold storage. Yeah. We didn't talk about that at all.
Graveyards in the desert that we have right now and things like that. I like that touch.
And then I guess Kevin shows up.
I went out to visit those once out in Tucson.
Me too.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite trip I've ever taken.
I did that. Did you go to the Titan 2 silo down the road from
Yes!
Yeah.
That's such a fun tour.
Yeah, I've done both of those. Oh, look at us. It's like we're friends. But yeah,
well,
that is a great point, Chris. I do like the decommissioning stuff.
Leha, any last thoughts?
I'm just happy these 2 chapters are over with.
Yeah. All right.
Well, we'll get a little bit later. Yeah.
I forget how many times I've read this book. The covers are falling off at this point, so I know what's coming up. I know
mine's in
that
pretty
we got
bad
through the
shape.
worst of it now. So
We're getting to the fireworks factory, and in fact, I think that is something that comes out of reading this so slowly, like we're doing. If we were reading this in 5 chapter chunks, this would be a little dip in the road and then awesome space action. But when you focus on it and you think about what the book is actually saying, what they're trying to make us think, it's very interesting what comes out.
Yeah, I like that we do 2 chapters instead of 4 now.
Yeah, I think it's turning out really well.
Yeah.
And by the way, we have a super cool plan for Wing Commander 3 novel when we get to that, where we will play the game alongside the book, and it's gonna be neat.
We're gonna be fully interactive.
Yeah. So with that, thank you guys for coming out to book club.
Yes.
We always get the same folks, Chris, Leha, and Trelane for book club, and we love it so much so that I've added you to the credits as the book crew. But this segment is open to anybody who wants to join in, any opinion.
As long as
you
you
are
like
welcome.
Wing Commander,
And
you have the book.
And yeah, so anybody out there, if I have been in so many community situations where I have seen a bunch of old buddies doing stuff like this and think, oh man, it's so cool. I mean, I don't want to say we're so cool. We're not cool at all. Cool. But I've seen so many situations where like, oh man, these guys have a really great community, but I'm so nervous to dip my toe in. I just want to say right now, anyone is welcome.
Yes.
I would love to meet somebody who read this today or just getting to Wing Commander now or anything. And any opinion is totally welcome. And we're gonna let you in our club. This is not an exclusatory. It's not even a word group. So everyone is welcome. Please join us if you're ever interested. And with that, we're going to jump to the ending. Thank you guys for all the chat. Ha! All right. Let me take my space helmet off and then put my crown back on.
I'm just leaving all of it like this. It's easier this way.
Well,
because I imagine I'd look dumb with a hat and being bald with just a little hat like that. I'm not gonna lie.
That was a pretty fun episode. Again, a lot longer than we expected. We're going to go watch
It's getting hot in here. Yeah, it's getting really hot in this room.
It got a lot hotter when the cake was here. It kind of raised the
Yes, it did. The fire did that.
But thank you guys for making me feel special. I really appreciate it.
Happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you. I'm going to go have a birthday adventure I'll talk about next week.
Yeah.
And, all my love to all of you out there. Let's keep Wing Commandering.
We are very happy to have you always.
Now, here is our credits.
See ya.
Hi, I'm Dr. Clyde Burrows from the Omnicron Institute. Our crew tangles with a lot of cats in space, but that could never really happen, right? Well, in fact, it did. While the United States tested rockets with chimpanzees and the Soviets famously used dogs, the French opted to try cats. The French space program launched with a cat named Félicette into space in October of 1963. Félicette was a black and white cat who was found on the streets of Paris, one of 14 who trained for a space mission. Her flight lasted just 13 minutes but was a complete success. She parachuted to Earth safely at the end. Not quite Prince Thrakoth yet. See you on the next exciting episode of All Wings Considered.